The Valley Master didn't get angry. He merely indifferently said, right and wrong are decided by future generations. Something can be right at one time and wrong at another time. There are many different definitions. The Valley Master waved his hand, and the day-night furnace buzzed. Its divine runes exploded with light, causing the stars to shake. Long Chen was stunned to find that the world had frozen. He wasn't able to move. Anyone who goes against the world is fated to have a bad ending. Sorry, this is the will of the heavens. The Valley Master shook his head helplessly as the day-night furnace grew larger until it covered the sky. Its opening shot toward Long Chen. The will of the heavens, my ass. Our heaven-splitting battle sect doesn't give a damn about the heavens, or our battle skill wouldn't be called Split the Heavens. Laughed the old man. Even in front of the Valley Master, he was fearless. The heaven-splitting blade bloomed with light and slashed toward the day-night furnace. Boom. Seeing a collision of divine items that were being controlled by two peak experts, the 7 bosses of the heaven-splitting battle sect hastily formed a protective barrier to block the shockwaves. Divine power clashed. Space twisted so powerfully that it could tear ancestral items apart. Boss Bao and the others felt like their bodies would be torn apart. This pressure was actually going straight through their barrier, and their barrier only blocked about half its power. The barrier blocked a portion of the spatial tearing pressure, but this energy was divine energy. They had to endure it with their bodies. Even Boss Bao and the others who had already reached the Life Star realm felt immense pain. It was like their bodies were dough being kneaded by someone. However, they didn't reveal that pain. They were from the heaven-splitting battle sect. Even if they died, they wouldn't turn cowardly. Even if they died, they had to bear it and even act indifferent. What shocked them was that Long Chen was right beside the old man and was bearing even greater pressure than them, but he didn't seem to react at all. That brat's quite the badass. Boss Bao and the others gave Long Chen a thumbs up in their hearts. He really had guts. His expression was even more natural than theirs. What they didn't know was that this tearing power was essentially nothing to Long Chen. After awakening all 5 stars, the power of his physical body had reached a monstrous level. As for the power of divine items, he could ignore it. Evil Moon would directly absorb it. Although Evil Moon was overly full, it knew how to cooperate with Long Chen's act of badassery. It just treated it as a snack. Just this little bit wasn't that bad. The divine runes of the divine items clashed repeatedly. Huge waves rippled through space. Just half-step nether passage isn't enough to block me. Yu Xiaoyun smiled coldly and extended a hand, pressing it against the day-night furnace. Its power grew explosively and the old man shook. He was actually forced back. The space beneath his feet crunched. The old man was actually suppressed, shocking Boss Bao and the others. Just as they were going to interfere, Long Chen slashed Evil Moon into the day-night furnace. You fuckers, I can't eat anymore, but you keep sending yourselves to me. Why didn't you come earlier? Raged Evil Moon. Due to consuming the energy of the blood gourd, it had no more space to devour more energy. Seeing such pure divine energy right in front of it but unable to devour it, it was going crazy. It was like someone starving who had eaten several huge bowls of rice and couldn't eat anymore was suddenly shown a luxurious feast of fish and meat. Long Chen might have exhausted practically all his spiritual yuan, but his physical strength was extremely terrifying. Veins bulged on his arms as he resisted with just his physical body. Yu Xiaoyun's pupils narrowed. This was definitely extraordinary. Long Chen was actually using physical strength to block divine energy. That was not a kind of power a human should possess. Long Chen had to have some kind of secret. Even Yu Xiaoyun was surprised. Long Chen was merely a brat who had just stepped into the soul transformation realm. However, the strength of his physical body could only be described as terrifying. The two of them joining hands managed to block Yu Xiaoyun's attack, but Yu Xiaoyun snorted and pressed his other hand against the day-night furnace. The day-night furnace grew larger, and its divine energy exploded like a volcano. Boom! Long Chen's arms almost exploded. His flesh was torn apart, and he was sent flying. That burst of power had been too great, and even his physical body was unable to block it. The old man was also sent flying. Yu Xiaoyun was simply too powerful. Yu Shaoyun stood in the air, his eyes closed. He was forming hand seals and chanting some kind of mysterious scripture. Chanting filled the air. The day-night furnace began to quiver like an ancient beast was slowly awakening within it. Yu Shaoyun suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at Long Chen, he indifferently said, "This is over." The day-night furnace, which had been revolving in the air, suddenly became still. It shot toward Long Chen and the old man. It wasn't particularly fast, but there was a black streak left in its path. "The void is exploding!" Startled cries rang out. The void was crumbling wherever the day-night furnace went. That was a scene of the end of the world. "Child, get away. I'll show you what it truly means to split the heavens." The old man pushed Long Chen into the distance. All the heaven-splitting blades runes slowly lit up. "Old man, don't." Seeing the old man's posture, Boss Bao and the others all cried out. They knew what that form meant. That was the 9th form of split the heavens, the very peak of it. However, it wasn't something the old man could unleash in his current realm. Let alone the 9th form, even the 8th form wasn't something he could control. What he was doing was igniting his Yuan spirit to forcefully unleash it and bring down his opponent with him. Just as Boss Bao and the others were about to charge forward and stop him, a pillar of light descended from the sky. Long Chen and the others' visions changed as they found themselves 10,000 miles away. Long Chen raised his head in shock to see that at some unknown time, an ancient mirror had appeared above them. The reincarnation mirror. Long Chen couldn't help being delighted. He recognized that mirror. It was the Xiantian Dao sect's divine item, the reincarnation mirror. Just after Long Chen and the others were brought away, in the distance, the void exploded. A huge black hole appeared in the air. That black hole was like a gaping maw, crazily devouring everything present. It was thousands of miles wide. Sand and stone flew up from the ground. Huge boulders rolled toward the black hole and then flew into the air once they were closer. People hastily looked over in shock as they fled. They were afraid of being sucked in. They could feel that the black hole was extremely terrifying. Being sucked in signified death. The ground beneath it sank as it absorbed more and more earth. It was like it wanted to suck in the entire world. Fortunately, the black hole rapidly shrank. In just a few breaths, it vanished, leaving behind a huge hole in the earth. It was like some giant beast had taken a bite out of it. The black hole vanished and space returned to calm. However, where it had been, there was someone new standing in front of a divine tower. The Xiantian Tower. Long Chen immediately recognized that tower as the Xiantian Dao sect's core divine item, the Xiantian Tower. The reincarnation mirror above Long Chen's head revolved. Countless figures flew out of it, with a person at the front being the Xiantian Dao sect's current Xian master, Li Tianxian. "Ha, Long Chen, your ability at causing trouble grows ever greater. You are the pride of my Xiantian Dao sect," laughed Li Tianxian. "He's the pride of my heaven-splitting battle sect." The old man glanced at Li Tianxian with some dissatisfaction. "Ah, you're right. He's the pride of your heaven-splitting battle sect." Li Tianxian simply smiled. He understood the heaven-splitting battle sect's temper far too well and knew not to compete with them. He arrived in front of Long Chen and patted him on the shoulder. "Things must have been hard on you. However, the Xiantian Dao sect's bitter days end here. No one will dare to bully the Xiantian Dao sect again." Long Chen was about to speak when Wang Zhen, Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, Mu Qingxian, Su Mo, and the others rushed over. Seeing them, Long Chen was delighted. When he had first returned to the Xiantian Dao sect and seen its destruction, he had been filled with pain, thinking that they were all dead. Seeing that his comrades that had fought through life and death with him were still alive, he was incomparably moved. The Dragonblood Legion also cheered and hugged these brothers of theirs. They all felt like it had been a lifetime since they had seen each other. The Xiantian Dao sect's disciples, including Wang Zhen, Hua Shiyu, and the others, were all touched looking at this scene. The Xiantian Dao sect's arrival caused an uproar on the other side. Wasn't the Xiantian Dao sect destroyed? How could they appear again? Just what had happened? At this time, in front of the majestic Xiantian Tower, there was an elder that Long Chen didn't recognize. That elder looked calmly at the valley master, not saying a word. Who would have thought that the Xiantian Dao sect would be so patient? So you were actually hiding a nether passage expert. The valley master narrowed his eyes slightly, but his voice was still indifferent. We had no choice but to be patient. The higher the cliff, the higher the waves that crash against it, said that elder with a faint smile. The elder had a friendly face, and his faint smile seemed natural. It was like he was a kind senior that would never get angry or fight others. Patriarch, you're right. What we needed was a cliff so high that it could tell the waves to go fuck themselves, cried out Long Chen. The valley master's expression sank slightly. He couldn't even reply to such an indirect insult without losing status. Bastard, no one taught you any manners, is that it? The Divine Flame Palace's master was the first to rush to Yu Xiaoyun's aid. Long Chen was about to retort with a few choice words when the patriarch said, "My apologies, this child is too young and temperamental. I've made you laugh at us. However, I feel like this matter can end here. After all, continuing to mess around isn't beneficial to anyone." Long Chen frowned. Wasn't that too weak? He looked at Li Tianxian and saw the latter shrug helplessly. Stop here? Are you joking? Long Chen has slaughtered countless innocent people, harming the very core of the eastern Xian region. Why should we stop here? Do you feel like that's possible? Sneered Yu Xiaoyun. Well, the patriarch's words were cut off by Li Tianxian, who said, "Master, why don't you come here and rest? Leave this to me. All you need to do is be a fighter. I am the current Xian master, so I'll handle it." The patriarch, who was the old Xian master, simply did not know how to be unyielding. Even Li Tianxian couldn't bear to continue watching it. Most likely his master was about to try to compromise and settle this thing peacefully, but such a thing was simply impossible. The patriarch bitterly smiled. Shaking his head, he didn't say anything in retort. He gave his position to Li Tianxian, and Li Tianxian pushed Long Chen in front of him. Now Long Chen is the temporary Xian master of the Xiantian Dao sect. Valley master, if you have any problems, you can talk to Long Chen. Long Chen's attitude is the attitude of my Xiantian Dao sect. Whether we fight to the death or settle things peacefully, it's all up to Long Chen. Li Tianxuan's words left no room for doubt. Everyone's expressions changed. If Long Chen was in control of the Xiantian Dao sect, wouldn't that mean another battle was about to erupt? Alright, then my orders are for all troops Long Chen raised Evil Moon without hesitation, about to charge forward. Li Tianxian almost coughed up blood. That was not what he had intended. He hastily shouted, "First diplomacy before fighting." Long Chen helplessly put down Evil Moon, resting it on his shoulder. He looked at Yu Xiaoyun. Fine, diplomacy first? Although I feel like such a thing is wholly unnecessary, my mood isn't bad after finding out that the Xiantian Dao sect and my friends are still fine. I'll play a bit. Just now, you said I have slaughtered countless innocent people. Tell me what makes them innocent. They wanted to kill me. Was I supposed to show my neck to them so they could kill me? Long Chen's mood was truly excellent. Although he had learned that the Xian master was safe thanks to Zheng Wenlong's messages, he hadn't known the situation about the people. Now seeing them all alive, he felt a weight being lifted from his shoulders. He appeared to be a completely different person now, no longer overflowing with battle intent. He looked like a simple scoundrel without the slightest air of an expert. Bastard, can you have some upbringing? Someone like you isn't qualified to speak to the Valley Master. Even speaking to me is a loss of my status, shouted the Palace Master in place of Yu Xiaoyun. Long Chen's status truly wasn't high enough for him to speak directly to Yu Xiaoyun. The Palace Master came out at just the right time, taking his place. Fuck off. I'm not talking to you. Long Chen's feet didn't move. He didn't lift his legs and simply swung a hand. The two of them were originally hundreds of meters away, but it was like Long Chen had teleported to slap the Palace Master's face and then returned as if he hadn't done anything. The Palace Master had still been sneering derisively when Long Chen struck him, sending him flying. The sound of bones breaking rang out along with a pained grunt. His movements were clean and natural. It happened suddenly without the slightest warning. Even the Valley Master and the old Xian Master only reacted after Long Chen's slap had struck. Everyone's jaw dropped so low that they could fit their own fists inside. It was silent. Just what was domineering? What was called arrogance? Ignoring a nether passage expert and slapping his underling, a late life star expert, in the face. In this world, where would one find someone more domineering and arrogant than Long Chen? From the moment he moved, to his slap, to returning to his position, it all occurred in less time than it took to blink. In just that short time, he accomplished something that surpassed all their imaginations. Amazing! When can I also be so unbridled in front of peak experts? Seeing everyone's shocked expression, Guo Ran was filled with envy. This time, Guo Ran's display had already been dazzling enough. The Dragonblood cross slash had even injured the Palace Master using a divine item. That was absolutely shocking. He had truly shown off, and his light even suppressed Yu Zifeng's. It could be said that his name would truly shake the 4 seas. However, if he had to compare himself to Long Chen, then if Long Chen was the bright moon, he wasn't even a twinkling star. He was more like a firefly. Ignoring how Long Chen had fought against 3 top experts without fear, how he had been unrivaled when his 5 stars had awakened, and how he had consecutively cut down heavenly geniuses, that slap alone was enough for him to look down arrogantly upon the rest of the world. Who else but Long Chen was capable of such a feat? Long Chen had just returned to his position when a net of divine light enveloped him. It was Yu Shaoyun. That slap wasn't just a slap across the Palace Master's face, but it was also a slap across his face and Pill Valley's face. This divine net came from the day-night furnace, and it was so quick that Long Chen had no chance of getting away. However, he also didn't try to dodge. He lazily rested Evil Moon on his shoulder. Divine light struck like a sword, blowing the net apart. That light had come from the Xiantian Tower, in conjunction with the Patriarch. Although the Patriarch's character was very yielding, his power was great. It was no wonder Li Tianxian had told him to just act as a fighter this time. I, Long Chen, represent the Xiantian Dao sect. As long as I give the word, the entire Xiantian Dao sect will attack you with our full power. Does an insignificant palace master have the qualifications to speak with me? Can you represent Pill Valley? If not, then stop wasting my time. Long Chen had known that the Patriarch wouldn't let him be bullied. Hence, he could sneer down at the palace master who was crawling up from the ground, his head still misshapen. Just now, Long Chen had forgotten about the weakness of flame cultivators' physical bodies. He had almost killed the palace master with his slap. If you want to talk, then let's talk. If you don't want to talk, then let's fight. As for smearing my name, just stop. That's too inferior. You said I was controlled by an evil weapon and destroyed my sect? Are your heads only filled with crap? What a ridiculous story. As for the idiots who believe anything that people say, if I say I'm your father, will you kneel down and call me daddy? All of you better listen well. There are quite a few people amongst you idiots who once came to suppress my Xiantian Dao sect. Back then, I said that anyone who tries to stop our rise would be mercilessly slaughtered. However, did you think holding on to someone bigger's leg would protect you? You repeatedly sent your people against me. Did you think numbers would protect you? Not only could you eliminate an enemy, but you could also get a favor from someone else. It's not a bad plan. That's why you didn't care whether or not I was falsely accused. You blindly did whatever they wanted you to do. You controlled the Eastern Xian region's public opinion. You acted like you actually believed the lies spewing from your mouths. Was it fun to invert black and white, to confuse right and wrong? Well, it wasn't very fun for me. Nevertheless, it was fun when I killed your idiot disciples. But based on your expressions, I see that wasn't very fun for you. Do you want to come and bite me? Long Chen had no fear with the Xiantian Tower supporting him. As for these senior experts that had come, many of them were leaders of their own sects that had sent their disciples here. Those disciples had been slaughtered to the last by the Dragonblood Legion. Seeing Long Chen's current appearance, they truly did want to bite him to death. Suddenly, a life star expert amongst the crowd roared, "Long Chen, don't be so arrogant and act so righteous. Even if you were wrongly accused, You should have explained yourself instead of slaughtering everyone. The way I see it, you simply wanted to kill instead of explaining yourself. You're a murderous devil, a piece of trash, a bastard dash. That person was in the midst of cursing when a saber image fell, causing him to explode. The one who had attacked was the old man. The old man didn't say anything after killing that person. He didn't even bother explaining. Boss Bao laughed. This is the style of the heaven-splitting battle sect. What's the point of explaining? They were intentionally accusing Long Chen wrongly. He only has one mouth, so no matter what he says, he's going to be drowned out by your billions of mouths. How laughable. If everything could be explained, would there still be any fighting in this world? Old man, my words are right, right? The heaven-splitting battle sect didn't get along with the rest of the world precisely because they didn't like playing such senseless scheming games. What irritated them the most was that many sects that wanted to devour others had to provide some kind of sanctimonious reason for their actions to cover up their own shamelessness. That was what made it even more shameless. Did they really think others didn't see their true intentions just because they tried to cover them up? Did they think that was enough to look arrogantly down upon others from a moral high ground and criticize them? That was why the heaven-splitting battle sect rarely came into contact with the outer world and never talked reason with other sections. If anyone provoked them, then they would simply fight. If they had the ability, then they could kill the heaven-splitting battle sect. If they didn't have that ability, then they would be the ones killed. The heaven-splitting battle sect's experts had muscles for brains. They had one principle: if you can fight, then don't waste words. Even within the heaven-splitting battle sect, when fellow members disagreed with each other, they would decide who was right with their fists. Whoever's fist was harder was right. This person was clearly guilty of falsely accusing Long Chen on purpose, but he still blamed Long Chen for not explaining himself. Long Chen might be able to bear it, but the old man couldn't. The old man shook his head. His voice was too loud and irritating. That's all. Everyone was speechless. Why did that sound like he had killed him not because he had cursed Long Chen, but because his voice was ugly? Long Chen had slapped the palace master's face in front of the valley master, while the old man had even killed a sect leader in front of him. Yu Xiaoyun's gaze was growing darker and darker. They were clearly not giving a damn about his status. However, he was a generations expert, and he had great self-control. He coldly said, even if that's the case, Long Chen still can't change the fact that he betrayed the human race and joined hands with the spirit world's creatures to kill experts of the ancient family alliance. That's right. He killed so many of my disciples. The ancient family alliance is supposed to be allied with the righteous path against the corrupt path. However, you turned your vicious means onto us. That's completely intolerable, cried an expert from the ancient family alliance. He was rather smarter than the previous person, and he said this from behind the Valley Master, not only showing that he was blindly following Pill Valley but also guaranteeing his safety. No one could attack him from this spot. Following his lead, more and more experts came out to demand that Long Chen pay for their disciples' lives with his own life. Long Chen, do you dare to admit that you work together with the creatures of the spirit race to kill the disciples of my ancient family alliance? Roared a sharp-mouthed Life Star expert. He had clearly had his family killed by Long Chen and was extremely emotional. When this person said this, everyone shut their mouths. The distant neutral camp's experts all held their breath. This was the crucial point. If this was false, then all their accusations against Long Chen would be false. Then he would be able to make a huge counterattack, and his name would be spread through history. At this time, Ziyan had awakened and was standing in the neutral camp. Seeing the excited people around her, she was a bit confused. There were actually so many people in support of Long Chen. Based on their spiritual fluctuations, they all believed he was wrongly accused. You're correct. Long Chen nodded. The neutral camp's people couldn't believe their ears. Long Chen had really joined hands with enemies to massacre the experts of the Righteous Path and Ancient Family Alliance? How could this be? All the neutral camp's disciples became disappointed. The majority of them had believed that Long Chen had been falsely accused this entire time. However, he personally admitted to it now. Although Pill Valley had disseminated some photographic jades that revealed scenes of Long Chen's fighting in the spirit world, they would rather believe that someone was framing him. They had hoped that he would manage to throw off their slander, but now that hope was extinguished. Good. Since you've admitted to it, then no matter what methods we used to kill you, they were necessary and right. The dragon slaughtering convention was also not based on nothing, and the people who died today died for justice. Long Chen, you must die today. Valley Master, please help uphold justice for us. Roared the sharp-mouthed Life Star expert. That's right, please get justice for us, Valley Master. Long Chen must be held accountable. This is justice for our disciples. Other experts began to roar as well. Long Chen coldly said, I'm not done talking yet. Hear my explanation. Who would want to hear your explanation? We need to immediately execute him and make sure to extract his soul so that he never reincarnates. All those people beside him should be executed as well. We have to wipe them all out, shouted the sharp-mouthed Life Star expert. Fuck your mother. Long Chen couldn't bear it anymore and charged at him. Yu Xiaoyun's day-night furnace flickered, but the patriarch activated the Xiantian Tower, and a pillar of light encased Yu Xiaoyun. Yu Xiaoyun's expression changed. The day-night furnace's own divine light flowed out, forming a barrier around him. Valley Master, I'd advise you not to force me. Right now, I am listening to the current Shen Master. What he tells me to do, I'll do. Considering you are just a clone, you cannot contend against me. I trust that you also do not wish to see this clone of yours destroyed, said the patriarch. I don't believe you dare to do so, said the Valley Master gloomily. You're right, I don't dare. However, I am listening to Li Tianxuan's orders, and Li Tianxian is listening to that little fellow. So you shouldn't be asking if I dare, but whether Long Chen dares, said the patriarch. Yu Xiaoyun was enraged. His true body was still in seclusion and couldn't come out. However, even though this was just a clone, it couldn't leave him for too long. The longer it stayed away, the more it affected his true body's progression. Just having his clone summoned like this had cost him greatly. The patriarch was correct. His clone's power was less than a third of his true body's, and it could not bring out the full power of the day-night furnace. Even though the Xiantian Dao Sect's patriarch had only advanced to the Nether Passage realm recently, there was still a chance he could destroy his clone if they fought. Boom! Long Chen charged into the crowd, slashing Evil Moon. A dozen Life Star experts were sent flying. After this much time, he had recovered at least enough energy to unleash one attack. His one attack sent his blockers flying, while the sharp-mouthed Life Star expert's ancestral item exploded along with his arms. Before he could flee, Long Chen grabbed his throat. Long Chen, come back. Don't cause a fuss, shouted Li Tianxian. Long Chen returned to his original location. He was still holding that sharp-mouthed Life Star expert. Seeing Long Chen return, the patriarch released his hand seal, and the Xiantian Tower's divine light dimmed. Yu Xiaoyun also pulled back the day-night furnace. However, now his face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. In all his life, he had never been so vexed. Long Chen had come and gone without anyone stopping him. These experts were all afraid of him and didn't dare to stop him. Instead, they directly fled. If only they had used 2 divine items, they might have been able to capture Long Chen alive. However, there were no Nether Passage experts amongst them. The experts present didn't have sharp enough insight to see that Long Chen hadn't recovered much at all. They had ended up wasting such a good opportunity. Fuck your mother. Long Chen repeatedly slapped the sharp-mouthed Life Star expert. When I killed people first, you said I refused to explain because I was guilty. Now that I want to explain, you say that no one cares about my explanation. Then what the fuck are you telling me to do? Long Chen was doing his best to control his power, but in his anger, he carelessly blew apart that Life Star expert's head. His Yuan spirit flew out. Valley Master, save me. However, he had only just flown out when Long Chen pointed a finger. A lightning arrow pierced the Yuan spirit, killing it. What do you want to explain? The 7th boss asked curiously. Fuck, I'm not explaining anymore. Explaining is useless anyways. Those who trust me don't need an explanation, and those who don't trust me won't believe it. Long Chen rested Evil Moon on his shoulder and spat on the ground. These people were too infuriating. Pointing Evil Moon at the experts in front of him, Long Chen roared, "All you bastards, listen well. I'm only going to say this once. The spirit world's creatures once helped out the Martial Heaven continent, and we are indebted to them. However, some idiots randomly read some history books and believed them without realizing that history is written by the victors. Those history books are like prostitutes talking about how pure and beautiful they were back in the day. The dirty parts were all covered. Whoever believes that crap is just an idiot. The true history was already lost in the river of time. Of course, you can believe me if you want to, or you cannot believe me. But don't talk to me about proof. I have always acted openly. If I do something good, perhaps I might not admit to it, but when I do bad things, I always dare to admit to it. If you want to be enemies with me, then come. Other than having one life and one blade, I also have over 12,000 life and death brothers. So, fight or fuck off. Fight or fuck off. Fight or fuck off. Fight or fuck off." The Dragonblood Legion's hot blood was ignited, and the roaring of over 12,000 Dragonblood warriors shook the sky. Who would have thought that the Eastern Xian region is so lively? It's so gratifying. Just as the Dragonblood Legion's angry roars were shaking the sky, a soft voice rang out. A chariot slowly flew over. The grand carriage was carried by a giant bird, which slowly flew in front of everyone. When the carriage got closer, people finally recognized its symbol. It was a symbol of a copper coin with a blue border. It was circular on the outside and had a square inside, representing the image of the Martial Heaven continent's central plains. This was the symbol of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and its immortal character for Alliance was written in the center of the square. Seeing that character, everyone's hearts shook. If one had to compare it, the symbol of the Eastern Xian region's branch alliance had their character imprinted in the spot of the Eastern Xian region, on the left side. Thus, for this Golden Alliance character to be written in the center, it represented the Central Xian region's head alliance. 4 alliance masters from the 4 branches of the Martial Heaven Alliance could only use silver characters in their symbol. Hence, this golden character explicitly showed the identity of the one in the carriage. Only the Martial Heaven Alliance's true alliance head was qualified to sit in it. "The 9-winged Qilin eagle," cried out an expert in shock as he recognized the identity of the bird pulling the carriage. It was a giant bird covered in scales. There wasn't a single feather on its body, causing it to appear very bizarre. When it spread its 2 wings, illusions appeared around them, making it look like there were 9 pairs of wings superimposing over each other. Rumor was that the 9-winged Qilin eagle possessed the bloodline of the ancient divine beast, the Qilin. This one was at the 11th rank, corresponding to the human race's life star realm. However, all the life star experts felt a chill upon seeing it. It was an extremely terrifying existence. Rumor was that the 9-winged Qilin eagle was originally a Xian beast, but for some unknown reason had been expelled from the Xian beasts and almost went extinct. As for this particular 9-winged Qilin eagle, its status was special. Even the Xian beasts didn't dare to do anything to it. That was because it had an extremely intimidating master. It pulled the carriage until it stopped above everyone, and the door to the carriage slowly opened. A beautiful woman in an imperial dress walked out of the carriage, her hair tied up with a violet gold phoenix hairpin. Everyone's expressions changed. Many of them had fear and shock in their eyes and involuntarily hid behind Yu Xiaoyan. She was the alliance head of the Martial Heaven Alliance. She looked to be in her 30s, with sword-like eyebrows and a high nose bridge, appearing both beautiful and heroic. Her formidable appearance would not lose to any man. She looked to be as high and mighty as an empress. Did you think hiding behind him would make things fine? Get out here. The woman glared at the elder hiding behind Yu Xiaoyan. Her bark caused that person to quiver. He nervously walked out and bowed deeply toward her. The Eastern Xian region's branch alliance master Zhao Yongqian greets the alliance head. Once he said this, everyone confirmed this woman's identity. Other than a few people, none of them had known who the alliance head of the Martial Heaven Alliance was. The expert in charge of all the righteous paths sects was actually a woman. So you still remember I am the Alliance head. Good. This time, my seclusion lasted 300 years. Did you think I was already dead and you could act without any reservations? Demanded the woman. Her gaze was like a sharp blade filled with killing intent. Alliance head Chu, this matter started Yu Xiaoyun. Shut up. This is an internal matter of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and outsiders cannot interfere. If you don't like it, call out your true body and let's have a fight. She shouted. Long Chen was startled. This Alliance head was quite terrifying to not even give face to the Valley Master. Her temper was also quite explosive. Who would have thought that the Martial Heaven Alliance was actually led by such a tough Alliance head? The Valley Master's expression twitched with anger, but he knew that this woman in front of him was a battle-crazed woman. She was the same as the heaven-splitting battle sex people. If she wanted to fight, she would fight. If he pushed her, she would definitely attack. This clone of his wouldn't be able to fight back against her at all. And since his true body was at a crucial juncture and couldn't be moved, he had no choice but to endure. Yu Xiaoyan, I didn't think that you would be so shameless as to take advantage of my seclusion. Fortunately, I came out early. Otherwise, if I, Chu Jianying, had stayed in seclusion for another 100 years, wouldn't the entire Martial Heaven Alliance have been turned into a branch of your Pill Valley? The woman's aura began to rise. Her furious killing intent terrified others. This Alliance head was both powerful and domineering. Even in front of experts like the Old Man, the Xiantian Dao Sect's Patriarch, and the Valley Master, she was still doing what she wanted. Alliance head Chu, what are you talking about? Asked the Valley Master gloomily. Chu Jianying waved her hand, tossing out a sack. Even before it landed on the ground, it opened. There were dozens of heads in the sack, eliciting startled cries. These heads all belonged to Life Star experts. What am I talking about? Don't play this game with me. All the fish you bought have been slaughtered by me, and amongst them were 2 branch alliance masters. Yu Xiaoyun, you really have some ability. 3 of the 4 branch alliance masters were bought by you. I admire your skills, sneered Chu Jianying. When the Eastern Xian region's branch alliance master saw those heads, he turned as pale as paper. He recognized most of these heads and he knew he was about to join them. The branch alliance master knelt on the ground and begged. Alliance head, disciple was just possessed, enticed by Pill Valley. But there was nothing I could do. My family's lives are in their hands. Slander. Yu Xiaoyun furiously waved his hand, and a powerful gust blew apart the branch alliance master. His soul dissipated. Yu Xiaoyun had originally been angry just at being summoned. Then, because this was just his clone without the power of his real body, he was continuously suppressed. He had reached his limit. For the branch alliance master to suddenly make such an accusation against him, even though he was slow to anger, he was infuriated. Perhaps it was true that Pill Valley had bought him, but it had been a mutually beneficial cooperation. The branch alliance master had also benefited greatly. When had Pill Valley ever controlled his family? Long Chen was refreshed inside. They deserved everything that came to them. It was time for Yu Xiaoyun to taste what it felt like to be framed by others. He had long since grown tired of and indifferent to Pill Valley's method of smearing his name. However, who could really not care? It was just that there was no way to stop it. It was just like what Boss Bao had said. Long Chen just had one mouth, while they had billions of them and some were particularly big. He could only accept being accused of the wildest crimes. Saying that he didn't care was just making himself feel better. You're clearly killing him to shut him up. Yu Xiaoyun, you're just trying to cover up the truth. I never expected that you, the Grand Valley Master of Pill Valley, would be so despicable. Pill Valley claims to be distanced from the cultivation world, and outside of the struggle between the righteous and corrupt paths. But now, you've colluded with the corrupt path, as well as bought the higher-ups of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Just what kind of shameful plot are you scheming? Cried out Long Chen with righteous indignation. It was like he was worried things weren't chaotic enough. That's right, my boss is right. Just looking at your current sinister and tyrannical appearance, I can tell that you're a crafty and evil person. Even such a person is fit to be Pill Valley's master? Guoran joined in. After all, this was the best opportunity to draw attention to himself. A chance to point at Pill Valley's master and curse him in the nose didn't come more than once in a lifetime. Most importantly, this situation was perfect for showing off. It was efficient, quick, painless, and a perfect example of low risk and high reward. Guoran naturally wouldn't let this chance escape. "You're all courting death." Yu Xiaoyun had never been so infuriated in all his years. His aura rose, and black and white energy began to surge out of him. The void shook around him. Heaven and earth changed color, and a terrifying pressure crashed down, causing everyone's expressions to change. Yu Xiaoyun was truly infuriated. All the fury he had been suppressing was being released. He felt like if he tried holding it back any longer, he would explode. Long Chen was too hateful. Each of his words was extremely humiliating to Yu Xiaoyun. He had completely lost the dignity of Pill Valley's master. As Yu Xiaoyun's crazy aura spread, all the experts shook. They all collapsed on the ground and knelt in fear. That was a kind of respect toward death. Even the neutral camp's experts were affected and knelt. Even the elusive Music Immortal Palace's disciples were pale and tottering, on the verge of collapse. Only Ziyan was calmly watching without the slightest expression. It was unknown what she was thinking. As that aura grew stronger, even Life Star experts quivered as they knelt. They didn't have the slightest ability to resist. The black and white energy around Yu Xiaoyun intertwined. The white energy represented life, while the black energy represented death. He was just like the ruler of life and death. In this space, any life could be taken with just a thought. This was the terrifying life and death domain of Nether Passage experts. Within this domain, they were rulers. No one could resist. Long Chen stood calmly as he watched Yu Xiaoyun release his aura. He sensed a kind of energy that had transcended mortal power. Rather than power, this seemed more like a kind of law. This pressure was useless against Long Chen. It also lost effect against the Dragon Blood warriors. They had walked the thin line between life and death countless times and had long since grown accustomed to it. They were indifferent to the fear of death. This pressure was truly terrifying, but in the end, it came from one man. On the other hand, they had repeatedly gone against heavenly tribulation. They had faced heavenly pressure. Seeing the Life Star experts kneeling, the Dragon Blood warriors were filled with pride. Long Chen had made them continuously go against their heavenly tribulations, and now they were reaping the rewards. Each of them could look down arrogantly on these people. "Boss, help me." "I don't think I can hold on any longer," said Guoran, his body twitching. "Smile a bit more naturally." Hearing Guoran's plea, Long Chen smiled helplessly. He placed an arm on Guoran's shoulder, and lightning sparked. Guoran's body immediately stiffened. His hair stood on end, and that smile froze. He stood there, straight as a bamboo pole. On the surface, he looked very much at attention. "Are you trying to scare a child? If you are, you've managed to achieve your goal, so you can put away your aura. If you want to fight, then all you need to do is nod your head. When it comes to fighting, I, Chu Jianying, have never been afraid of anyone." Chu Jianying looked indifferently at Yu Xiaoyun as his aura rose. She clasped her hands behind her back, not at all moved by his power. "Long Chen, don't worry. She's family." The old man. The seventh boss was in the midst of whispering to Long Chen when he was sent flying by the old man's staff. "You're talking too much." The old man glanced at the seventh boss. That warning gaze was clear. Long Chen was a bit confused, not knowing why the seventh boss would suddenly be beaten for nothing. At this moment, Yu Xiaoyun's rising aura vanished. Only then did others manage to stand again. However, their faces were all ashen. Nether Passage experts were absolutely terrifying. Even their previous exchanges had been nothing more than probing blows. Nether Passage experts were in control of life and death. Such people were already close to the gods. "Chu Jianying, what do you think you're doing? If there are any problems, we can talk it out. My Pill Valley will see what we can do. If you want to fight, then my true body will immediately come and we can have a real battle," said Yu Xiaoyun coldly. He was clearly expressing his attitude. If Chu Jianying forced him, then he would summon his true body. Don't use your true body to threaten others. If your true body could come, it'd have long since come. You want to talk it out? Fine. In the future, keep your claws cleaner and don't reach them out randomly. I, Chu Jianying, have not died yet. Long Chun belongs to a sect of my Martial Heaven Alliance and is one of my disciples. This matter can end here, said Chu Jianying. Hearing that, Long Chun was surprised. This Chu Jianying was actually intent on protecting him? That was completely going against Pill Valley. Impossible. In the spirit world, Long Chun began Yu Xiaoyun. Stop talking about the spirit world. It's impossible for you to drown out the real history by spreading fake books and stories. I know that there are at least 10 people here who know the truth about the spirit world. It's just that no one wants to mention them. Do you not know all the immoral things you've done? If that's the case, then I won't mind telling the story of the spirit world and Martial Heaven continent, letting these children who have been overdosed in your false history learn the truth, said Chu Jianying without yielding in the slightest. Hearing her say that, everyone's hearts shook. Chu Jianying was the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance and a nether passage expert. She had to know some secrets. Most people had only heard public stories about the spirit world. Those stories said that the spirit world had been allied with the Martial Heaven continent, but in the human race's most dangerous moment, the spirit race had betrayed them, stabbing them in their back, which resulted in them becoming mortal enemies. However, there were no detailed accounts regarding why the spirit world had betrayed the human race. Just now, Long Chen had said that he would explain, but the sharp-mouthed Life Star expert hadn't given him a chance to, and Long Chen had killed him in his fury. After that interruption, Long Chen had lost the desire to explain, disappointing them. Now that Chu Jianying said this though, everyone was sure there was something suspicious about it. Long Chen always acted openly. He disdained lying. If he had simply denied that he had killed humans in the spirit world, no one would have been able to do anything to him, especially since he was worshipped by countless disciples. However, he hadn't done that. Just from that, it was possible to see his character. He had to have his own reason. That reason most likely related to this secret Chu Jianying had mentioned to Yu Xiaoyun. Alliance head, we very much want to know the truth, said Ziyen amongst the neutral camp. You're the apprentice of the elusive music immortal palace's Jun Ruolin? Chu Jianying did not reply. Instead, she asked Ziyan's origins. That's right. Disciple Ziyen greets senior. Ziyen bowed. Chu Jianying nodded. You're worthy of being from the elusive music immortal palace. This karmic luck makes one envious. Do you really want to know the truth? If you learn it, your master might get angry. What? Asked Ziyen. Chu Jianying, you shouldn't talk rubbish. If you want to talk, you should bring out proof and pay attention to your status. Shouted Yu Xiaoyun. Valley Master. Suddenly, the Flame Divine Palace's master ran over dejectedly to Yu Xiaoyun and handed him a photographic jade. Looking at what was depicted, Yu Xiaoyun's expression immediately changed. He suddenly roared at Li Tianxian, Xinyan Dao sect, what is this? Everyone was curious as to what the photographic jade had recorded to make Yu Xiaoyun suddenly act like this. It's nothing. I just entrusted the Huayan sect with spreading the truth of the Xiantian Dao sect's destruction to the public, letting all the Eastern Xin region's people know exactly who did this. That way, they can't accuse Long Chen of doing it. What? Does that dissatisfy you? Asked Li Tianxian politely. Are you curious about how a fight amongst divine items could be recorded so completely? Then you can only blame yourself for underestimating the reincarnation mirror. Although it's only a quasi-divine item, it's not used for fighting. It has its own special abilities, allowing it to record everything that happens in the Xiantian Dao sect. Even if you used the Brahma divine diagram, even if you screened off the heavens, even if you threw space into chaos, it's all useless. That is its heaven-defying ability. Valley Master, it was your Pill Valley that participated in the destruction of my Xiantian Dao sect and then accused Long Chen of the crime. Don't you think you need to give an explanation to my Xiantian Dao sect in front of all these people? Everyone became dumbfounded, including the experts behind Yu Xiaoyun. How is that possible? If Pill Valley participated in the destruction of the Xiantian Dao sect, can they even be called neutral? The neutral camp's experts were even more stunned. This news was too shocking. Was Pill Valley really scheming against Long Chen? They wanted to make the public opinion of him as low as possible and then borrow everyone's hands to kill him? But why would Pill Valley do this? How does killing Long Chen benefit them? I heard that Long Chen's conflict with Pill Valley stemmed from the Pill Tower. The Pill Tower's master wanted Long Chen's treasures, so he sent people to hunt him down in the Four Nations' ancient remnant. The neutral camp's experts immediately exploded into a discussion, bringing up all sorts of points. Although they didn't know the full details, they chose to trust Long Chen. When they looked at this situation from Long Chen's viewpoint, many things became clear. Who did this? Who was so brazen as to secretly take out a divine item and participate in a secular battle? Roared Yu Xiaoyun, glaring at the palace master. Valley master. The palace master instantly became terrified. Bastards, how brazen! Yu Xiaoyun furiously waved his hand, and the palace master's throat was caught in his hand. The palace master, a peak life star expert, had no ability to resist. Valley master, spare me, begged the palace master. Unfortunately for him, Yu Xiaoyun ignored his begging. The day-night furnace behind Yu Xiaoyun swallowed the palace master. After a moment, the palace master's wail of despair came from within it before everything fell silent. I will carefully investigate this matter. If traitors appeared in my Pill Valley, I will definitely give you an explanation. But if that's not the case and someone is attempting to frame Pill Valley, well, although we are neutral, we're not someone just anyone can slander. Goodbye. The day-night furnace broke through the void, and Yu Xiaoyun's figure vanished. When Yu Xiaoyun returned to Pill Valley, he immediately slammed the chair in front of him, turning it into dust. His expression was twisted. He no longer had his calm air. How infuriating! How did you mess up so badly that you left behind such irrefutable evidence? You couldn't even handle something as insignificant as this. Roared Yu Xiaoyun, his voice shaking the entire room. The palace master was standing in front of Yu Xiaoyun, completely safe and sound. If Long Chen and the others could see this, they would definitely prostrate themselves in admiration toward their acting abilities. It was an accident. No one would have expected that a quasi-divine item would have such a heaven-defying ability. Even the Brahma divine diagram screening was ineffective against it. That bastardly Tianxian is too crafty, said the palace master helplessly. Yu Xiaoyun took a deep breath, and his anger slowly faded. He returned to calm. Go find a few unlucky fellows in the Flame Divine Palace. Your 2 vice palace masters will probably have to be tossed out along with them. Valley master. Yu Xiaoyun waved his hand, shaking his head. This matter has grown too big. We must give an explanation to the Eastern Xian region. Not only do they have to die, Valley master, you don't need to die, but your identity will have to die. Otherwise, there'd be no way to settle these waves. Other than that, send someone to the Xiantian Dao sect to apologize and offer compensation to settle this. We even need to compensate them? Nonsense, how could we not compensate them when we destroyed their sect? Go, find someone good at bargaining. But be prepared to be taken for a killing. They won't let us off cheaply, said Yu Xiaoyun helplessly. He had nowhere to vent his rage. There was nothing he could do. Once the palace master left, Yu Xiaoyun took a deep breath. Long Chen, I'll let you be pleased for now. We'll settle our debts later. Once Pill Valley's people retreated, everyone was left dumbfounded. The corrupt experts were especially pale. Pill Valley had actually abandoned them. In the face of the terrifying head of the Martial Heaven Alliance, the corrupt elder's expression was unsightly. The two were mortal enemies. However, without the blood gourd, he couldn't even run from her. People from the corrupt path, listen well. Tell that old ghost Xiaowenian to grow a brain and not be used by others. If he wants to cooperate with others, then with his little bit of intelligence, even his bones will be swallowed by others without leaving the slightest trace. Take your people and scram, shouted Chu Jianying. The reason why Chu Jianying sat in the highest position of power in the Martial Heaven Alliance wasn't just because of her martial power. It was also because of her intelligence. She knew that Pill Valley was using the corrupt path as a weapon. Although she had only just come out of seclusion, she had already figured out some of Pill Valley's schemes. First, the Pill Valley had used the carrot and stick approach to try and control the corrupt path. Thereafter, their hands stretched into the interior of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and it let them gain control of many sections. The sects that refused to listen to them ended up attacked by the corrupt path. Alone and without reinforcements, they were destroyed. The corrupt path had been Pill Valley's tool to draw more righteous sects under their wing. These particular corrupt experts were wholly insignificant to Chu Jianying. The Blood Gourd had already been destroyed by Longchen, so there wasn't much difference between killing them and not killing them. However, by releasing them, it was possible to send a warning to the corrupt path. Although it might not stop the corrupt path from working with Pill Valley, they wouldn't end up becoming Pill Valley's dogs in the future. That was her only goal. Even if she had to release these people, it was worth it in the long run. The corrupt experts had not expected Chu Jianying to let them off. They bowed slightly toward her before leaving. Although Chu Jianying was their enemy, the corrupt path did not conceal their worship for the strong. Even if it was an enemy, as long as it was a powerful enemy, they would be respected. Once the corrupt experts had left, Chu Jianying's gaze swept across the ancient races. She smiled coldly. I heard the ancient races have become quite arrogant during my seclusion. You're complaining that your territory isn't large enough and you want to expand? How about my Martial Heaven Alliance just gives you half our territory so that each member of the ancient races has their own mountain? How does that sound? During these past few years, the ancient races had been rapidly expanding their territory, not satisfied with what they had. Some smaller sects had been driven away by them, while some stronger sects had disbanded thanks to Pill Valley's coordination. Only some tough sects who didn't bend to the carrot or the stick had gone against the ancient races despite Pill Valley's mediation. After all, no one wanted to leave their home. As a result, those sects were suddenly attacked by the corrupt path, while the reinforcements from other sects were one step too late to help. Those sects were either destroyed or had their cores so badly damaged that they were forced to disband. Now that Chu Jianying had brought this up, those ancient race experts' expressions sank. Saying that they would each have a mountain was clearly mocking them for having few people but being extremely greedy. However, even their powerful life star experts were intimidated by Chu Jianying and didn't dare to even let out a fart. Don't think that with the support of the Xian beasts and the favor of Pill Valley that you can do whatever you want. Pill Valley won't help you unless it benefits them as well, and the Xian beasts have never publicly expressed any opinion of you. Don't think you have so much support. Speaking of which, go tell the Xian beasts that Hu Xiaolin was slain by my disciple. If they want to find someone for revenge, they can find me, said Chu Jianying. Long Chen was startled. Hadn't Chu Jianying just arrived? How did she seem to know about everything? You're underestimating the life and death Tao. Nether Passage experts that have gone through the Nethergate can randomly examine other people's souls. Only a few people can avoid her probing, explained Li Tianxian upon seeing his shock. Long Chen's heart shook. The Nether Passage realm was even more terrifying than he had imagined. So she was actually able to peer into other people's memories without them even being aware. That was beyond his current comprehension. At the start, Long Chen hadn't felt that the Valley Master was so powerful. However, as he learned more and more about her level, Long Chen realized he had been too foolish. The Nether Passage realm wasn't something that he could currently comprehend. Little fellows from the Ancient Family Alliance, remember that you're allied with the righteous path. Don't let others intentionally cause conflict amongst us. Of course, I'm not saying this because I'm afraid of you. I just want to make things clear. Cooperation should be sincere. If we can't cooperate, then we can break up. It doesn't matter. But the Martial Heaven Alliance's cooperation with the Ancient Family Alliance is based on both our interests. Although we've received your help, you've also obtained a generous return. Now that I, Chu Jianying, have come out of seclusion, the decisions of the Martial Heaven Alliance are decided by me. Go ask Di Long if he wants to end this cooperation or not. After telling off the ancient races, Chu Jianying turned to the ancient family alliance. Yes, disciple will definitely transmit your words. However, Long Chen's actions in the spirit world, don't you think they merit an explanation? An elder from the ancient family alliance walked out, neither arrogant nor subservient. It seemed that he had a certain level of status in the ancient family alliance. He had some skill with words. Originally, he was going to say that Long Chen's actions merited compensation, but he had changed it to an explanation at the last moment. Curiously, Chu Jianying did not get angry. Instead, she amicably said, "There are many things that you don't know. That means you haven't been bought by Pill Valley. That's why it's best that you do not learn a few things. As for Long Chen's actions in the spirit world, he has his own reasons for those. If you want an explanation, then Long Chen, give them their explanation." Chu Jianying beckoned to Long Chen, startling him. He took out Evil Moon again, and the space behind him shook as he prepared to summon his divine ring again. "Brat, I wasn't telling you to fight. Explain the reasons for your actions." Chu Jianying's face instantly darkened. Long Chen was too battle-hungry. "Oh, that kind of explanation," said Long Chen apologetically. He had misunderstood her meaning. He had thought she wanted him to beat them. He hesitated. "Can I really?" Chu Jianying looked into the distance as if she hadn't heard him. When he looked at the old man went to greet the old patriarch. No one looked at him. "What the fuck is this? They don't want to tell the secrets, so they're making me do it?" wondered Long Chen. This was clearly a trap. However, he could only leap into it. The neutral camp's people were looking at him with anticipation. This was the secret that they wanted to know the most right now. Even Ziyen was looking at him. This relates to ancient secrets. Since I didn't participate in the ancient wars, what I'm about to say merely represents my single viewpoint. Whether or not you believe it is up to you. Long Chen's gaze swept over everyone. He gravely said, "The human race is greatly indebted to the spirit world. The reason I protected the spirit world was twofold. One was as thanks for a favor, while one was making up for the human race's debt to them." An uproar exploded amongst the crowd. For countless years, the only stories of the spirit world were that they were despicable traitors. Now that they heard the exact opposite, many people were unable to accept this information. "That's impossible. Long Chen, you're definitely making up nonsense," roared an ancient race junior generation expert who had survived the massacre. Long Chen shrugged. "I already said it's up to you if you want to believe me. Don't ask me to bring out any proof, because such a thing is absolutely meaningless. I always act according to my heart, and I do whatever I want. I disdain lying and making up excuses for my actions. If you want to take revenge against me, then come. I will definitely accompany you to the end. But remember this, if you have an issue with me, come at me. If anyone dares to touch the people by my side, then they'll have touched my reverse scale, which will anger me. When I get angry, even I don't know what I'll do, so it'd be best if you were more reserved." After Long Chen said this, killing intent ignited in his eyes once more. The flames of fury in his heart were once more set aflame. Even Long Chen didn't know why his temper had grown more berserk. He was easier to anger now. He didn't know if it was caused by Evil Moon or not. He had once tried to probe Evil Moon about this issue, but Evil Moon had immediately retorted angrily that he was like this from the start. It had nothing to do with the issue. At this point, Long Chen had clearly killed so many people. He had killed the main instigators, and he couldn't even keep count of how many heavenly geniuses he had slain. However, whenever he thought of how his opponents had dared to target his parents and torture Cloud, his killing intent immediately surged, and he wanted to kill them all. As soon as Long Chen's killing intent was released, that disciple didn't dare to make another sound. He felt himself be locked down by an air of death. The experts around him vanished, leaving him to face Long Chen alone. Even that many experts together were unable to feel safe in front of him. They sensed a terrifying pressure from Long Chen that was on the same level as the pressure from Nether Passage experts. It had felt like whether they would live or die was based on a single whim from Long Chen. "I trust Long Chen. Don't ask me why. Trust is trust. A rank 9 celestial suddenly came out in support of Long Chen. I also trust him. I trust his character. He definitely wouldn't lie. I believed in Long Chen from the start. I never doubted him. Following one person taking the lead, more and more experts from the neutral camp came out in support of Long Chen. The main reason why they had stood in the neutral camp was more or less because they had some feelings of worship toward Long Chen. Otherwise, they'd have long since yielded to the pressure of their families or sects to join Pill Valley's camp. They didn't want to submit to Pill Valley, but they also didn't dare to directly support Long Chen. Just choosing the neutral camp could barely count as silent support for Long Chen. Now that Long Chen had explained the truth about the spirit world, almost all the neutral camp's experts chose to believe him. That was because Long Chen was an extremely trustworthy person. He never lied. With other powerful figures of high status also supporting him, there was even less chance that he was lying. Can I ask if the Dragon Blood Legion is still accepting new members? Suddenly, a person cried out nervously and excitedly. Countless disciples immediately went silent, holding their breaths with anticipation. My apologies, but the Dragon Blood Legion isn't recruiting. We are one solid entity forged through battle. Whether it's the first-generation Dragon Blood Warriors or the second-generation Dragon Mark Warriors, our emotions were born and baptized through blood and fire. There's no way for others to gain such a relationship with us. Joining the Dragon Blood Legion is not a matter of how high your cultivation base or how great your talent is. All the 12,000 members of the Dragon Blood Legion have one heart. Even if we wanted to accept you without having gone through blood and fire, life and death, there's no way we can be united. So thank you for thinking so highly of me, but I'm sorry to say that I cannot accept, said Long Chen. Although there were several Empyreans amongst the neutral camp, Long Chen couldn't accept them. It was as he said. The Dragon Blood Legion was like a weapon forged together, and their forger was countless trials and tribulations. They had been smelted together by the merciless world with its cruel flames. After that forging, it was difficult for new people to join them. Although they had felt that the chances were low, hearing this decisive answer still disappointed countless people. However, don't be too disappointed. The Dragon Blood Legion isn't accepting new members, but the Shen-Tian Dao sect's large gates are open to any upright and open-hearted people. Although it's not joining the Dragon Blood Legion, joining the Shen-Tian Dao sect will still allow us to fight shoulder to shoulder against our enemies, said Long Chen. Their eyes lit up. That was true. By joining the Shen-Tian Dao sect, wouldn't they have more chances to interact with Long Chen? Perhaps in the future, there would be a chance that they could join the Dragon Blood Legion. I want to join the Shen-Tian Dao sect. My sect is too cowardly and ordered me to join Sha Guangyan's side. Such weak and cowardly higher-ups almost caused me to die. Fortunately, I was smart enough to choose the neutral camp, or I wouldn't exist any longer. If I had listened to my sect's orders, I'd have lost my life, so this life was won by me. I want to leave my sect and join the Shen-Tian Dao sect. Would the Shen-Tian Dao sect want a traitor like me? Asked a rank 9 celestial. His voice quivered slightly, but he said what countless other disciples wanted to say. Of the disciples present, over 80% of them came from sects that had told them to join Sha Guangyan's side. Some sects had even ordered them to join that side, or they would be viewed as criminals who had betrayed their sections. However, geniuses were naturally rebellious. It was hard to change what they had set their minds on. Not all of them chose to stand on the neutral side because they believed Long Chen was falsely accused. There was also another portion that had simply been irritated by their sect's orders, and so they deliberately went against them. However, now they felt a burst of fear, as well as anger toward their higher-ups. Those higher-ups had almost sent them to their deaths. Betraying one's sect made them traitors, and others would look down on them. That was a name that they would never be able to get rid of in their life. However, who wouldn't want to join the Shen-Tian Dao sect? They had the old patriarch, a nether passage expert, as well as Long Chen's Dragon Blood Legion. Who could stop their rise now? Anyone who joined the Dragon Blood Legion would instantly have their status rise. The Shen Dao sect's brilliance would surpass all expectations for sure. Joining them was definitely the wisest decision. However, would the Shen Dao sect accept them, people who had betrayed their sect? The Dao is endless, while love should be limitless. The Shen Dao sect's cultivation is based on cultivating the Dao. The Dao contains all things, so we naturally have room to expand. As long as your hearts remain righteous, then no matter your status or talent, my Shen Dao sect will welcome you. Li Tianxian smiled amicably. However, inside he was extremely moved. His palms were sweaty. He knew the Shen Dao sect was truly rising. Many thanks, Shen Master. Disciple wishes to join the Shen Dao sect. A rank 9 celestial flew over and kowtowed toward Li Tianxian. I also want to. Hey, don't push me. Whose hands are those? If you dare to touch me again, I'll kill you right now. Everything became chaotic as the heavenly geniuses of the neutral camp fought to fly to the front. Tens of thousands of experts were rushing over. 60 to 70% of those experts were rank 9 celestials. Lu Tsong's smile looked like a flower in bloom. There was no way to differentiate them into inner and outer sect disciples. These people were all geniuses amongst geniuses, experts amongst experts. The Shen Dao sect had now picked up countless treasures. No, the treasures had taken the initiative to jump into their hands. It wasn't even possible to pick them all up. Wang Zhen couldn't help but bitterly smile. He looked at Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, and the others. He saw a similar sadness in their eyes. They were originally the Shen Dao sect's top geniuses. However, once these people joined, they would immediately be drowned out. Li Tianxian patted Wang Zhen on the shoulder. Don't be dejected. You will always be the heavenly geniuses of the Shen Dao sect. No one will surpass you. Of course, that's on the precondition that you don't compare yourself to Long Chun. Shen Master, disciple isn't jealous. Wang Zhen hastily tried to explain himself. Li Tianxian waved his hand. All of you are disciples I've seen growing up. Other than that little monster Long Chen, I'm clear on everything in your hearts. Don't worry. The Shen Dao sect's karmic luck is soaring into the sky. As witnesses to the Shen Dao sect's rise, you are the favorites of this generation of the Shen Dao sect. Once everything's over, I will activate the karmic luck blessing. You'll all have a chance of becoming Empyreans, said Li Tianxian confidently. His confidence stemmed from Long Chen. Long Chen had truly been ruthless during the dragon slaughtering convention. Practically, all the Eastern Shen region's experts had been drawn over, and over 100 sects had been destroyed during this convention. The world was changing because of him. Karmic luck had become increasingly turbulent. With so many geniuses joining the Shen Dao sect, they would bring all the Eastern Shen region's karmic luck with them. Li Tianxian was so excited not just because of all these genius disciples joining, but also the endless karmic luck they were bringing with them. That was the true priceless treasure. There were even 2 Empyreans who decided to join the Shen Dao sect after hesitating for a long time. The elders almost went crazy with joy. As more disciples joined the Shen Dao sect, the senior experts from the other sects turned ashen. The Shen Dao sect's rise was now set in stone. No one could possibly stop them now. The ancient race experts didn't want to keep watching this, and they left dejectedly. The ancient family alliance's experts also left in groups. In the end, there were only a few experts of the righteous path that refused to leave. Li Tianxian knew what they wanted. He said, "My Shen Dao sect cultivates the Dao. Although we can only understand the slightest fraction of the true Dao, we know how to distinguish right and wrong." This time, Long Chen really went a bit too far. When my Shen Dao sect calms down, we'll make sure to send over some humble gifts as an apology. Li Tianxian was very experienced with how the world worked. He knew that these people were afraid of the Shen Dao sect causing trouble for them once they grew stronger. However, his words were humble, expressing his attitude. The things in the past were in the past. He wouldn't bother them over it. They could all just get along. His last sentence in particular was giving them face. After all, Long Chen had killed all their disciples. Offering some compensation was all right since they were the ultimate winners. We wouldn't dare to accept. Once the Shen Tiandao sect rebuilds, please send a message to me, Chiyuneo. I promise to come celebrate with you, said a smiling elder. Long Chen's face twitched. How shameless did someone have to be to act like this? Just now, this person had been shouting to kill him. Just how fake were people? For profit, a person's two-faced nature would reveal itself. Even their emotions were fake. Just what was the point of their cultivation? What was the point of their life? Could it be that cultivation was not to live with dignity but so that you could do whatever you wanted? What made Long Chen speechless was that there were even more shameless sect leaders who now went over to Li Tianxian, exchanging conversation with him. Some people even praised Long Chen for being so talented at such a young age. A strange smile appeared on Long Chen's face. Yes, he supposed he really was talented to have killed all their elite disciples. He turned away from them. These people might have smiles on their faces now, but Long Chen saw their killing intent and resentment clearer than anyone. These people simply swayed whichever way the wind blew, but they always left themselves a path out. Long Chen dared to guarantee that if Pill Valley rose and the Xiantiandao sect was in an inferior position, their fake smiles would instantly transform into icy sneers. They wouldn't hesitate to raise their butcher's knife against the Xiantiandao sect. Perhaps this was simply the cultivation world. It was full of fake, dislikable people. Lu Tsang, the tower department head, and the elders were busy registering disciples, while Li Tianxian was busy conversing with the hypocritical sect leaders. Chu Jianying, the patriarch, and the old man didn't say anything. They just watched calmly. After these righteous experts were done with their fake congratulations, they departed. Some of the neutral camp's disciples also began to leave now. The battle today had ended, and it was time for them to leave. Due to various reasons, they didn't want to leave their sections. After all, no matter how bad a sect was, it was still their home. No one would want to leave their home. From a distance, Long Chen watched a group of women leave. Appearing isolated and alone, Ziyen led the elusive Music Immortal Palace's disciples away. Although Long Chen hadn't looked at her, he knew that Ziyen had been watching him the entire time. She had wanted to say something several times, but in the end, she had merely sighed and left. Staring at Ziyan's distant back, even Long Chen didn't know what emotion he was feeling. In any case, he was feeling very unwell. Meng Qi held his hand. She softly said, "You know, she's a good person." "I know. Unfortunately, we're fated to be enemies," sighed Long Chen. This world was just too irritating. It had to force him to become someone that repaid kindness with enmity. "Long Chen, I don't think you should stay in the eastern Xian region any longer. Come with me to the central Xian region." Once the outsiders had left, Chu Jianying, who had been silent for so long, suddenly opened her mouth. "Don't even think about it." Chu Jianying had just opened her mouth when the old man stood in opposition to her. Long Chen was a bit befuddled, not knowing what was going on. "I was asking Long Chen, not you. Why are you so big-mouthed?" demanded Chu Jianying. "Long Chen is my family's child, so I get to decide," shouted the old man, stabbing the black staff into the ground. "I can't be bothered with you. Long Chen, do you want to come with me to the central Xian region? That place is definitely 100 times better than here. With me present, no one would dare to bully you. Not even Pill Valley or the Xian beasts have those guts," said Chu Jianying, turning to Long Chen. Long Chen shook his head. "Many thanks for your kind intentions, but I don't want to leave the eastern Xian region for now. I also can't leave the Xiantiandao sect." Long Chen's words caused the old man's expression to improve slightly. On the other hand, Li Tianxuan's expression was calm from start to end. He didn't seem worried at all. "Are you a fool? The Xiantiandao sect might be rising, and I've also made my warning, making it so people won't directly target you, but it's the hidden arrows that are hardest to block. Even if you aren't thinking of yourself, what about the people beside you?" demanded Chu Jianying, disappointed with his poor decision. Long Chen laughed. "The cultivation path is one of no return. Ever since we chose to fight for the peak of the martial path, we began betting our lives against the heavens. If we didn't even have the courage to bet, How would we cultivate? The entire Dragonblood Legion thinks the same way. They've entrusted their lives to me, and my decision is their decision. Even if we fall on the struggle of the martial path, we will die together. We'll gather in the Yellow Springs and continue our fight from there. Long Chen's laughter was full of equanimity toward death and unstoppable drive that caused all the experts to be moved. Only a domineering person could say such domineering words. The old man and the 7 bosses all smiled. This was how grand a man should act. You really are just like that old ghost, raged Chu Jianying. My family's children all have this kind of temperament. What, you don't like it? Laughed the old man as if he had one. Chu Jianying's angry expression suddenly transformed into a contemptuous smile. What does Long Chen's temperament have to do with you? He came from the eastern wasteland. I've never seen someone as shameless as you. It's like you think Long Chen's accomplishments are all thanks to you. People really grow more shameless as they grow old. Bullshit. The old man raged. Long Chen was just a brat in the eastern wasteland, and he even killed one of my heaven-splitting battle sect's outer disciples. It was only thanks to my wisdom that we didn't pursue that and even cleaned up a batch of disciples that didn't fit our standards. We even gave him split the heavens. His accomplishments are definitely partially thanks to me. How am I shameless? The old man looked exceptionally infuriated. He was like a provoked lion, and even the veins on his forehead were bulging. The 7 bosses simply shook their heads with a smile, not surprised at all. Long Chen didn't comprehend at first, but when he thought of what the 7th boss had said to him, he realized what was happening. So that's what it was. Does getting angry about the truth have any use? If the Shintian Dao sect hadn't arrived just now, you would either be dead or crippled. Don't you feel shame bragging so much? Demanded Chu Jianying disdainfully. So what? Even if they hadn't come, I could have cut down Yu Xiaoyun's clone. Who would dare to look down on me? Snorted the old man. Long Chen was startled. The old man was actually so powerful that with his half-step nether passage cultivation base, he could still destroy Yu Xiaoyun's clone even when it was in possession of the day-night furnace? It seemed the 9th form of Split the Heavens had some kind of secret to it. To trade your true body with a clone, have you grown muddled with age? Asked Chu Jianying coldly. I was willing to do it. Does that have anything to do with you? The old man didn't have the slightest air of a wise elder or a reserved elder. However, his current appearance did make him seem much younger. As the two of them exchanged words, more and more experts came to a realization. As long as they weren't a fool, anyone would be able to tell that Chu Jianying and the old man had some kind of relationship. Chu Jianying ignored the old man's reply and looked at Long Chen. Child, let me ask you. If your women grew stronger than you, what would you do? Would you get jealous of them? Long Chen was caught off guard by this question. Looking at Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wen, he replied without any hesitation. If they were stronger than me, that would be the best. It would make me overjoyed. Why would I get jealous? Do you see that? That's called a man. Not like some petty little person whose heart is narrower than a needle and doesn't like it when other people are stronger than him. Although Chu Jianying didn't directly bring up the old man, her meaning was already clear. When did I ever get jealous of you? What a joke. I've already comprehended life and death, and I'm just one step away from Nether Passage. Just wait. We're leaving. The old man waved his hand and then left. In his fury, he didn't even say goodbye. Boss Bao and the others hastily followed. Bao Buping and Chang Hao waved goodbye to Long Chen as they ran off as well. They knew the old man was angry and couldn't be further provoked. Long Chen shook his head. Clearly, the old man had some kind of relationship with the Alliance head. From Chu Jianying's eyes, Long Chen saw a trace of remorse, but she still kept a cold smile on her face. That made Long Chen sigh. Even at such an age, they were still like children. Could they not grow up? Chu Jianying took a deep breath. Looking at Long Chen, she said, "You're a good child and a real man at that. Don't follow in that old ghost's footsteps and become so narrow-minded, looking down on women. For now, this matter is over. I have regained control of the Martial Heaven Alliance and cleaned up its interior. The Martial Heaven Alliance won't be in turmoil like before. Also, Pill Valley won't be able to find trouble for you temporarily, and the corrupt path should cease their schemes as long as they have the slightest brains. As for the Xian beasts, I will personally warn them. I doubt they would dare to touch you. Many thanks, Senior. I've been tired just trying to keep up with them. I can finally take a break. Long Chen smiled. That smile truly contained some relief. Right after the battle of the spirit world where he had lost hundreds of his brothers, he had returned to the continent to find that the Xiantiandao sect was destroyed and all sorts of rumors were spreading. He had been surrounded by enemies this entire time. You really are different from that old fellow. Even when he was young and filled with drive, he refused to ever admit when he was tired. Well, that's not important. Think of some way to give this to him, and do your best not to let him know that it's from me. Chu Jianying took out a jade case. This jade case was covered in black and white lines. When Long Chen touched it, his heart pounded. There was powerful life and death energy coming from the jade case. He felt like his soul was about to be pulled into it. This is some of my experience when entering the netherworld. Help me give it to that old ghost. However, if you tell him it's from me, he won't accept it. Chu Jianying shook her head helplessly. Long Chen promised, don't worry, just leave it to me. I'll handle this. Chu Jianying smiled. I was rushing to come here today, so I don't have any gifts for you. Next time I'll have something ready. I have to go now. Things back at the headquarters are still in shambles. Be careful. Chu Jianying was saying goodbye to the patriarch and was about to leave when she suddenly let out a cold snort. She slashed her sword upward. A flash of sword light pierced the void, tearing open the sky. A vague figure could be seen for just a moment before it vanished. Bloodkill Hall, listen well. If you dare to use seniors to attack juniors, then even if I have to flip through this whole world, I'll find you and erase you from existence. Shouted Chu Jianying. Everyone jumped in shock. None of them had even sensed someone. If it hadn't been for Chu Jianying, they wouldn't have even known that there was a terrifying assassin approaching. Long Chen also praised her inside. She was truly worthy of being the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance. She had actually sensed that assassin one step before him. His 9-star hegemon body art had only sensed the assassin the instant Chu Jianying had attacked. Long Chen, be careful of the Bloodkill Hall's people. They are like houseflies, they're everywhere. I heard that they've given rise to a divine emissary, and that divine emissary is the one who managed to receive the greatest divine blessing in all the Bloodkill Hall's history. Be careful, warned Chu Jianying. Yes, I'll be careful. Long Chen nodded. Only then did Chu Jianying return to her carriage. The 9-winged Qilin eagle spread its wings and vanished from sight. All the various experts from various forces had now left, leaving behind only the Xiantiandao sect's people. The current Xiantiandao sect was in an unprecedented golden age. Countless top geniuses had joined them. They had definitely become the strongest sect in the eastern Xian region. All the experts who had just joined were excited. On one hand, they had just joined the strongest sect in the eastern Xian region, while on the other hand, they were now in the same sect as Long Chen. Long Chen was the eastern Xian region's strongest monster. He slaughtered other heavenly geniuses without ever tasting defeat. To be able to say that they came from the same sect as him was definitely an honor. Li Tianxian looked at Long Chen. Long Chen immediately understood and loudly said, "Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Xiantiandao sect. Starting today, we are now one family. For now, let's not talk about anything else. After so much fierce fighting, my stomach's empty. Let's return to the sect to eat and drink. I, Long Chen, will offer all of you a toast to welcome you." Long Chen's wanton and relaxed style made these new disciples who had just joined feel even more excitement. Just as they were cheering, Long Chen pulled Xia Yunchong and Xia Yuluo with him to the Dragonblood Legion. The reincarnation mirror activated, drawing them all inside. The Xiantian Tower and reincarnation mirror broke through space, vanishing, leaving behind only a desolate and empty battlefield. The waves caused by the dragon slaughtering convention spread far and wide, going from the eastern Xian region to the entire Martial Heaven continent. This dragon slaughtering convention, which was supposed to be a simple competition amongst the junior generation and shouldn't have caused any reaction at all, had ended up drawing in the majority of the Eastern Xian region sects, as well as 3 Nether Passage experts. Nether Passage experts were rare even within the entire continent. They were figures that could shake the continent. It wasn't just because they were so powerful themselves. Another reason was because Nether Passage experts could unleash the greatest power from divine items. They could cause irreparable damage to the very land. Nether Passage experts would rarely ever reveal themselves. However, 3 of them had now appeared at once. How could that not be shocking? Who would have thought that the Xiantian Dao sect, which had declined to the point that it had been about to be wiped out by the flow of time, would actually revive and give rise to a Nether Passage expert? The Xiantian Dao sect was like a lion that had been slumbering for countless years that had awoken with a roar to express that it was awake again, and no one could stop it. Even the Martial Heaven Alliance had been tidied up by Chu Jianing. The people that Pill Valley had snuck into the alliance were all slain. She didn't give Pill Valley any face. Of the ones who were bribed by Pill Valley, those with heavy offenses were directly slain, while those with light offenses were told by Chu Jianing that she would see how they acted in the future. During this time, if they didn't act properly, they would be expelled. Chu Jianing's tidying of the Martial Heaven Alliance was quick as lightning. Her means were ruthless. At the same time, Chu Jianing sent a message to the Corrupt Path, Ancient Races, Ancient Family Alliance, Bloodkill Hall, and Shen Beasts. Any power, any expert that had wanted to challenge could do so as long as they were within the same realm. Even if they were to kill Long Chen, she wouldn't make a sound. However, if anyone were to bully him with a higher cultivation base or despicable means, then just like the dragon slaughtering convention, that person would have to face her fury. Her words were very domineering. She didn't say that they would have to face the Martial Heaven Alliance's fury. No, she said that they would have to face her fury. That was what made her words even more domineering. Like that, she wouldn't be restricted by her status as head of the Martial Heaven Alliance. In her eyes, even having to give up her position was worth it to beat people who offended her to death. The Xiantian Dao sect now had a Nether Passage expert and had recruited tens of thousands of geniuses. They had become the strongest force in the Eastern Xian region. Furthermore, they had the support of the Martial Heaven Alliance's leader, while Long Chen was also closely connected to the Wine God Palace and the Huayan sect. Who could possibly find trouble for him now? If Long Chen didn't go find others for trouble, others would have to light incense in thanks. When it came to fame within the Eastern Xian region, no one, young or old, could compare to Long Chen. Although there was no way to say that there wouldn't be someone more famous in the future, his level of fame was precedent. What caused even more waves was that Long Chen had cleared up the name of the spirit world, saying that they weren't traitors. It was the human race that owed a great debt to the spirit world. When he had said this, both Chu Jianing, the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and the old Xian master of the Xiantian Dao sect had been present when he had said this, but neither of them had said anything. They had clearly given their tacit approval of his words. That sparked a huge debate in the Martial Heaven continent. Some people believed that Long Chen was intentionally lying to give himself a just reason for his actions. However, the majority disagreed with that view. History was unclear, but they had eyes, and they had personally witnessed Long Chen's character. Such a person would disdain lying. Although the name of the Dragon Slaughtering Convention ended up satirical with its conclusion, it had still been an inspiring fight. This had been a truly world-shaking fight. A battle of top heavenly geniuses. However, some people were unable to find inspiration from it. Other than Pill Valley, the Corrupt Path, the Ancient Races, the Ancient Family Alliance, and the Shen Beasts, the ones who actually had it the worst off was the Grand Han Ancient Nation. Their capital had been destroyed. However, what was worse than that was that due to the collision of divine items, everything within 10,000 miles had become a land of death. Other than celestials, no one else could approach that area. Let alone ordinary people, even Xiantian experts would be crushed by the pressure if they entered there. If it was just the ruined land, then that would be one thing. The Grand Han could also build a new capital. However, what caused the Grand Han to despair was that somehow, someone had set up a formation in the capital that had sucked up the majority of their dragon vein energy to power the barrier. Originally, Sha Guangyan had promised that this barrier would be used at a critical moment to capture Longchen. It was supposed to be a small formation. However, this small formation had become a peerless, giant formation that had sucked away the Grand Han's dragon vein energy. This so-called dragon vein energy was similar to a sex heaven and earth divine spring. It was condensed of karmic luck. Without the protection of their dragon vein, the Grand Han was in danger of crumbling at any moment. If the Grand Han could gather the hearts of the commoners, they could rebuild a capital and construct a formation. In 100,000 years, they might be able to give birth to a new dragon vein. However, in order to curry favor with Pill Valley, the Grand Han had provoked the disgust of the commoners, even giving their capital to Pill Valley. Originally, the plan was to use Pill Valley's power to execute Long Chen and then gain powerful helpers to devour the Grand Xia, Grand Zhou, and Grand Chu. The commoners were driven away, and the formation was constructed all for Pill Valley. However, rather than currying favor, their plan exploded in their faces. Their dragon vein was destroyed. Even the secular world, that signified that this dynasty had reached its end. The Grand Han's imperial family had never treated their commoners particularly well. They only cared about themselves. As for the commoners, their requirements weren't very high. They just wanted a place where they could live in peace, away from fighting and killing. However, not caring about that, the imperial family had still tried to use Pill Valley to devour the other ancient nations. However, now Pill Valley was investigating just who had sneak attacked the Xiantian Dao sect and had no time to bother with them. Furthermore, the Grand Han had lost its value to them. Pill Valley kicked them aside mercilessly. Politics were just that heartless. Even the commoners could clearly see Pill Valley's indifference towards them. However, the imperial family was lost in the stories and legends that they themselves had constructed, resulting in them thinking that they could use Pill Valley to unite the four nations and dominate the land. As the news of the dragon slaughtering convention spread, countless commoners began to migrate from the Grand Han to the Grand Xia, Grand Zhou, and Grand Chu. They had lost hope in their nation. Not only had they lost their dragon vein, their arrogant provocation of the other three nations when backed by Pill Valley would definitely result in those three nations now unleashing their anger on them. Furthermore, considering Long Chen's relationship with the Grand Xia, the results were clear. In the eyes of the commoners, the Grand Han's imperial family had been too disappointing. On the other hand, the Grand Xia's imperial family had actually endured the Grand Han's constant provocations to keep their commoners safe. That made them want to move even more. Furthermore, the Grand Xia, Grand Zhou, and Grand Chu all gave the new immigrants a new space in their territory, making them endlessly grateful. This was the style of a real grand nation. Rather than targeting the innocent commoners, they knew that their real enemy was only the Grand Han's imperial family. More and more people left the Grand Han. There were also some people who didn't want to leave who rose in revolt. Groups of experts began to gather in various locations, forming their own revolutionary parties who wanted to overthrow the current imperial family. The Grand Han was thrown into chaos. Even without the other three ancient nations doing anything, the imperial family was already viewed as the enemy of the Grand Han. Some parts of the imperial family's army also switched sides at the last minute. In the end, the Grand Han's imperial family was overthrown in less than a month. When the imperial family's heads were cut down, they were shown as a symbol to the people. Their bodies were also ripped apart by the 5-horse punishment. Although the imperial family had been overthrown, the various powerful revolutionary parties all wanted to take the throne, resulting in another huge internal battle that lasted 3 years. When the new ruler was established, the Grand Han had been fighting internally for so long that its core was badly damaged. It no longer had the power to revive itself. It lost the qualifications to challenge the other three ancient nations. Going back in time, Long Chen and the others finally returned to the Xiantian Dao Sec's land. When they saw the desolate battlefield, quite a few disciples became gloomy. Some even began to cry, holding back their sobs. Although Li Tianxian had reacted quickly at that time, The outer region of the Xiantian Dao sect, which belonged to the workers and commoners, had been destroyed in the first instant by the attacks of multiple divine items. Many of the outer sect disciples that had survived came from that region of the commoners. Their families had been there. Seeing the battlefield, they were full of pain and hatred. "Alright, don't cry. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen already got revenge for us. I'm sure they'll be able to rest in peace in the Yellow Springs. What we need to do is properly cultivate and defeat anyone who dares to provoke us, just like senior apprentice brother Long Chen," comforted someone. As people comforted them, their mournful expressions improved slightly. Suddenly, the sky shook. Everyone hastily looked up. A huge mountain landed on the ground. That was the Xiantian Dao sect's main peak. It had been collected by the Xiantian Tower. The main peak had the founder's statue, and they could not allow it to be damaged. Once the main peak fell, divine light flowed through it. It was possible to see visible fluctuations flowing towards the statue. Li Tianxian smiled with gratification. Those fluctuations were karmic luck. There was an incredible amount of heaven and earth divine spring currently condensing. The Xiantian Dao sect's rise was unstoppable. The old Xian master looked at that divine light flowing across the statue. The statue seemed to be blossoming with life. He sighed. "Now that I look back, it seems I was always wrong. Tianxian, I should have given the Xiantian Dao sect to you sooner." "Master, this was all fated. It has nothing to do with you or me." Long Chen was the main point, said Li Tianxian. They both looked at Long Chen. The Dragonblood Legion had already set up a huge wine table. Long Chen was already starting a celebration with all the disciples. The celebration was just a simple one. After all, celebrating now wasn't very suitable because the Xiantian Dao sect had no walls. Other than the main peak, the surroundings were desolate, and it wasn't very comfortable. Long Chen also only intended to do this as a formality. After all, many of the disciples that had joined because of him. He drank a bowl of wine with every disciple, agreeing to have a proper celebration once the sect was rebuilt. To be able to drink wine and even personally touch bowls to Long Chen made these disciples extremely moved. After drinking a bowl with every disciple, he had Guoran take his place. Guoran liked showing off and being the center of attention the most. Fortunately, this wine was ordinary wine, or Guoran would have collapsed from drinking all of it. Long Chen returned to the Xiantian Tower and could see the other elders busily working. The tower department head was in the midst of designing the rebuilding plan of the Xiantian Dao sect. As for the old Xian master and Li Tianxian, they were sitting in front of the Xiantian Tower, drinking some tea. Looking at the disciples celebrating down below, they were filled with emotion. After recruiting a large batch of disciples, any sect would have trouble managing them. That was because each genius thought highly of themselves. That resulted in a competition between them once they joined the sect to see who was really the strongest. They all wanted that position. Practically, all sects would let them fight amongst themselves. That made it easier for them to see the potential and specialties of their disciples. Some sects would even encourage this fighting. However, in a fight against tigers, there would have to be injuries. If there were too many, things would grow out of control. If this many geniuses joined any other sect, they would definitely fight day and night. However, they were all obedient upon joining the Xiantian Dao sect. They were even humble and amicable. That wasn't because their characters were simply like that, but because the Xiantian Dao sect had a monster like Long Chen. Any genius would lose their qualifications to be arrogant in front of Long Chen, so seeing Long Chen personally welcoming them, taking the initiative to drink with them without the slightest arrogance or airs, they would be idiots if they dared to be arrogant. If even such a figure wasn't arrogant, then they couldn't be. So even though this many geniuses had joined at once, the Xiantian Dao sect wasn't thrown into chaos at all. Everything was being done peacefully. "Come and sit. You must be tired. Have some tea." Li Tianxian indicated for Long Chen to sit, grabbing the teapot. However, Long Chen was one step faster, taking the teapot and filling the old Xian master and Li Tianxuan's cups first before pouring his own. The tea was emerald green and a bit thick, but it had no fragrance. It was a top-grade tea, with all its flavor concentrated within. Long Chen drank a mouthful, but he didn't know anything about tea, so he didn't feel anything in particular. I feel like an unlucky star. Wherever I go, things get thrown into chaos. It was the same in the Eastern Wastelands branch sect. Long Chen bitterly smiled. Back then, the Eastern Wastelands branch sect had also been destroyed because of him. He had spent a huge sum to rebuild it. Now that he had come to the Central Plains, it was just a few years before he caused even the main sect to be destroyed. This bad luck seemed to strike everyone around him. You can't put it that way. Until the end, no one can tell whether something is good or bad. All you see is part of the process, not necessarily the result, comforted Li Tianxian. He knew more about Long Chen's situation than anyone else. However, there were some things that he definitely couldn't tell Long Chen. However, every time he thought of the final ending of all Heaven D fires, Li Tianxian felt pain. There was nothing he could do about that. People cultivated to do as they pleased. They would rather be a firework exploding with light than a sad speck of dust. Shen Master, has Wild awoken? Asked Long Chen suddenly. He was very curious why he didn't see Wild anywhere. Ah, that's right. Come with me. Li Tianxian led Long Chen and the old Shen Master into the Shen Tower. Wild was sleeping inside a pool. This pool was originally composed of the all-devil monster's essence blood, but it had now been fully absorbed by Wild. Wild had grown even larger now. He had surpassed 6 meters in height and was even larger than Hu Xiaolin. His entire body was now covered in silver lines. They looked like thousands of silver serpents swimming across his body. Those lines seemed to be alive. What shocked Long Chen the most was that Wild now had 2 horns on his head that were bent slightly like a bull's. Rather than pointing outward, they pointed upward. Wild's mouth was bulging slightly, and 2 fangs were protruding out of it. Wild no longer looked simple and pure like before. He looked like a giant monster. What's going on? Long Chen was shocked, almost unable to believe that this was Wild. The old Shen Master said, the barbarian race exists only in legend. They have many subraces, but there aren't any detailed records of what those are. No one can say for sure what's going on with Wild. However, Long Chen, you have to be careful. If you can't control Wild, he will. The old Shen Master closed his mouth at that point. His meaning was clear. Perhaps once Wild awoke, he would no longer be the old Wild. That won't happen. Wild will always be Wild. You'll know once he's awake. Long Chen shook his head confidently. Long Chen tried to touch Wild, but just as his hand touched the silver lines, they seemed to grow angry and gather together, forcing his hand back. These lines seem to have their own life. The curious thing is they refuse others to see what's going on, said Li Tianxian. He had also tried to investigate what was happening with Wild, but had been refused by the silver lines. It's fine. Wild's slowly awakening. It shouldn't be too long now. Long Chen smiled slightly. No matter what appearance Wild took, he would always be his brother. This was something he was absolutely confident in. The old Shen Master and Li Tianxian didn't say anything. They walked out of the Shen Tower. Just at that moment, an elder ran over. Reporting to the Patriarch and the Shen Master, someone sent a letter, saying it's for Long Chen. Oh, who is it? Asked Long Chen. They already left. It was a young man. I couldn't see through his cultivation base, replied the elder. Long Chen was curious. Who would send him a letter without revealing their identity? He opened the letter, seeing a blueprint inside. What is this? Long Chen was dumbfounded by the mess of lines he saw. It's a formation diagram, exclaimed Li Tianxian. Long Chen knew nothing about formations, but Li Tianxian was more erudite. He immediately identified it as a formation diagram. Oh, Xiachen? So it was him. Seeing a name written on it, Long Chen came to an understanding. It was no wonder this formation had come so suddenly. It seemed everything had been done by Xiachen. Long Chen had heard of him. After the battle of the 4 nations' ancient remnant, there was an expert who had gone to get revenge against the Grand Han. He had killed most members of the imperial family and even used a terrifying formation to escape. At that time, Xia Chen's name had shaken the Grand Han. Xia Yuyang had said that Xia Chen came from a branch of the Xia family and had some of the imperial family's bloodline. Long Chen thought of what had happened with the sudden barrier that had appeared during the dragon slaughtering convention. He recalled Peng Wansheng's surprised shouting. Peng Wansheng had died in the chaos. It seemed he had been killed by Lu Ruyan, but when Long Chen asked her about it, she ignored him. However, Peng Wansheng had revealed that the formation had been laid down by a formation expert Sha Guangyan had invited. Now that he thought about it, that formation expert was most likely Xia Chen. Xia Chen truly was a genius. Last time, he had almost eliminated the Grand Han's imperial family, leaving behind only 2 life star experts that had tried to kill him. Perhaps it was because of that loss that the 2 remaining experts had summoned back the outer members of the imperial family and started to act so crazy. Last time, Xia Chen had given them a heavy blow. This time, Xia Chen had used some unknown method to win Sha Guangyan's trust and establish such a huge formation that sucked away all the Grand Han's dragon vein energy. It was no wonder that the barrier had been able to block the attacks of divine items. It actually had such a high cost. That cost had been paid by the Grand Han. Now, Xia Chen had sent someone with this formation diagram. He clearly wanted to help Long Chen. "Shen Master, how is this formation?" asked Long Chen. Li Tianxian and the old Shen Master were silent for a long time as they examined the formation diagram. In the end, they both shook their heads. Li Tianxian sighed. "This formation seems to be an ancient formation capable of both great offense and defense. The most powerful aspect of it is that its core can actually be a divine item. If that divine item was used to control the formation, its power would be unimaginable. However, the cost of it is also terrifying. With our current wealth and manpower, even if we were to bankrupt ourselves, we would only be able to construct 1/100th of this formation." That's a ridiculous cost," exclaimed Long Chen. Just at this moment, an elder came with another report. "Shen Master, Pill Valley has sent an envoy that wishes to see you." "Nice, someone's come to give us money." "Shen Master, leave this to me." Long Chen's eyes brightened, and he smiled mischievously. In the central Shen region, there was a holy land with soaring mountains and ancient forest of towering trees. Mist shrouded the land, making it look like a fantasy world. The top one of those soaring mountains was a grand and beautiful palace. It could vaguely be seen within the mist and cloud. The rising and falling mountains looked like they were moving rhythmically. It enthralled the heart, looking like it contained the silent transformations of the mysterious grand Tao of music. This place was the Martial Heaven continent's famous elusive music immortal palace. The reason why it was so famous was because in times when the continent had been facing a great crisis, powerful experts had come from the elusive music immortal palace, allowing humanity to survive. It was one of the protectors of the Martial Heaven continent. Another reason for its fame was because all the elusive music immortal palace's members were women. Countless experts yearned to win one of their hearts. If anyone could marry one of their disciples, it would be the blessing of their lifetime. The elusive music immortal palace's disciples used music to peer into the heavens. Their songs were the music of the heavenly Taos, and it was extremely beneficial to one's cultivation. Regretfully, the elusive music immortal palace's core disciples never married. Only outer disciples with lower aptitude would sometimes choose to abandon their music Tao cultivation when they found a man they fancied. Within the main palace, there were hundreds of women sitting at the front. These women looked to be around 30 years old. However, in reality, they were the elusive music immortal palace's elders. Their age was shockingly high. On the throne of the palace was a beautiful woman looking at Ziyan with a complicated expression. Ziyan's head was lowered. Beside her was another woman. She was tall and slender, and her hair was tied up in several high knots, making it look like a vertical cloud. She was also beautiful, but her face was a bit thin and her chin was a bit sharp. To Ziyan she coldly said, "Our elusive music immortal palace is the protector of the continent, but you actually showed mercy to someone for personal reasons, resulting in countless experts dying. Junior Apprentice Sister Ziyen, how are you going to explain yourself to us? To the continent? This woman was Ziyen's senior apprentice sister. Her name was Shin Bijuan. Within the entire elusive Music Immortal Palace, she was the only one whose talent had reached the same level as Ziyen. In fact, because she had joined earlier, she was even stronger than Ziyen. The two of them were the elusive Music Immortal Palace's peak geniuses. They were both Empyreans and apprentices of the current palace master. However, Ziyen was the one who had gained the privilege to control the 7-string C suppressing zither. That signified that Ziyen would be the successor of the palace master in the future. Shen Bijuan didn't like that and was even a bit jealous. She normally didn't dare to say anything about it, but today she finally had an opportunity to attack Ziyen verbally to the point that she couldn't fight back at all. Ziyen, tell me, why did you hold back? Asked the palace master. She had some pain in her eyes, but as the palace master, she had to continue. Disciple is incompetent. Disciple is willing to relinquish the control of the 7-string C suppressing zither as punishment, said Ziyen with her head lowered. That shocked everyone. Giving up the 7-string C suppressing zither indicated that she was giving up her position as the future palace master. As for Shin Bijuan, she was shocked but also pleased. Nonsense, are you a child? Are you trying to escape from your responsibility? Demanded the palace master. A dripping sound rang out. Only now did people notice that Ziyan's tears were constantly dripping on the ground. Everyone else can leave. I wish to speak to Ziyen alone. Seeing those tears, the palace master's heart softened. Palace master dash, cried out Shin Bijuan. Go. Yes. Shin Bijuan was unwilling. She knew that the palace master was unwilling to criticize Ziyen in front of everyone. Most likely, the palace master wouldn't scold her at all. Shen Bijuan had finally had a chance to strike Ziyen thanks to this matter, but the palace master was too biased toward her, enraging Shen Bijuan. However, she didn't dare to retort, and she left with everyone else. The large room only had the palace master and Ziyen. The palace master sighed and walked over to Ziyen. Master. Ziyen threw herself into her master's embrace and cried. Child, what am I going to do with you? Before going, I have told you that Long Chen was your devil star. Each time you encountered him, you gave up your chance to kill him. You didn't kill him in the eastern wasteland. You didn't kill him in the Grand Xia. You didn't kill him in the eastern Xian city. Now, you even had another chance to kill him in a justifiable manner. If you had unleashed the 10,000 spirit heaven suppressing song, then with the 7-string C suppressing zither's assistance, you would have had at least an 80% chance of killing him. Even though that divine ring of his is strange, you would still have heavily injured him. With the other experts present, Long Chen would have definitely died. Now that you've missed this chance, the difficulty in killing him will multiply next time. If you don't kill him next time, then you will definitely die to him. Why must you do this? The palace master gently rubbed Ziyan's hair. She sighed. You held back. Was it because you were testing how Long Chen felt toward you? Ziyan sobbed. If he killed me, it would prove that I wasn't in his heart. I would be dead, and I wouldn't have to feel any pain. If he didn't kill me, it would mean I was in his heart, and I still had a chance to save him. However, he actually said such heartless words. Ziyen couldn't speak any longer as her tears overwhelmed her. Foolish girl, there's no chance for the two of you. He is your fated devil star. In the end, only one of you can live in this world. You have to face this destiny, urged the palace master. Master, I really can't. Although I don't approve of Long Chen's methods, I don't approve of how those people acted either. If both sides were wrong, why must I only kill Long Chen? Is it only because they have more people? Because they were wrong as a majority, they don't need to bear any guilt? As the protector of the Martial Heaven Continent, are we protecting the Martial Heaven Continent's people, or the Martial Heaven Continent's justice? Demanded Ziyen. Child, we are not protectors of the Martial Heaven Continent's people, nor are we protectors of the Martial Heaven Continent's justice. We are protectors of the Heavenly Daos. You don't understand many things, but you will understand them in the future. This is the mission of our elusive music immortal palace. Ziyan shook her head. Master, please don't make things hard on yourself. I want to rest for a while and sort out my thoughts. Alright, you truly do need some time to rest. The palace master gave her approval. Once Ziyan left, she sighed deeply. Master. Not long after Ziyan had left, Shin Bijuan walked in. Are you dissatisfied with my decision? Asked the palace master. Disciple would not dare, said Shin Bijuan hastily. Would not dare? All right then. I really am a bit biased toward Ziyan. To tell the truth, I was never very fond of you, said the palace master. Shen Bijuan's expression changed. I don't understand what you mean, don't worry. I'm just speaking frankly. Do you know why I don't like you? Asked the palace master. Is it that disciple is too foolish? You're wrong. Your talent, your comprehension ability, your karmic luck, they're all superior to Ziyan. Are you curious why despite being so great, I still chose Ziyan as my successor? The palace master stared at Shin Bijuan deeply. It's because your heart has always contained a trace of wild ambition that cannot be erased. Your desires are too great. You don't need to explain yourself. The elusive music immortal palace cultivates the heart, using music to peer into the heavens. Not only is your heart clear to me, but it was also shown clearly to all the elders in the palace today. To tell the truth, if it weren't for that wild ambition, your current accomplishments would be even greater, and I would have long since given the successor position to you. Then what should I do? Please guide me. Shen Bijuan suddenly knelt on the ground pleadingly. There's nothing anyone can do. This is your primal desire hidden in the deepest part of your heart. But since you're so attached to the palace master position, I can give you one chance. If you can kill Long Chen, then once your cultivation base reaches the appropriate level, I will give you the palace master position. As long as you lend me the 7-string C-suppressing zither, I can definitely give you Long Chen's head, declared Shin Bijuan. Don't get too excited yet. I'm not done speaking. If you kill Long Chen, then you can become the palace master. However, the elusive music immortal palace's major decisions are decided by a vote amongst all the elders. This is to prevent the palace master from being tyrannical and possibly destroying the elusive music immortal palace, warned the palace master. That's fine. I just wish to work for the elusive music immortal palace and save my junior apprentice sister Ziyan from her worries, said Shin Bijuan gratefully. Yes, all right. You can go. You'll have to wait for an opportunity to present itself to kill Long Chen. Chu Jianying is being tough right now, and while we don't fear her, there's no need for us to go directly against her. During this time, I will teach you how to control the 7-string C-suppressing zither. It'll be up to you in the end. Yes. Shen Bijuan had just left when a voice rang out in the palace master's head. You are doing something very dangerous. For Ziyan, I'm willing to do anything. That child is perfect, except she's just too kind. Please, when Shin Bijuan makes her move, assist her with your full ability. I would rather give the palace master position to Shin Bijuan than allow Ziyan to die to Long Chen, said the palace master. The one she was speaking to was the elusive music immortal palace's divine item, the 7-string C-suppressing zither. Alright, however, prepare yourself. Long Chen isn't so easy to kill, said the 7-string C-suppressing zither. The palace master nodded. She looked out the gates toward the distant mountains, her heart uneasy. Could it be that Long Chen was not just Ziyan's Devil Star, but also the elusive music immortal palace's Devil Star? Or perhaps the entire world's Devil Star? Long Chen calmly sat in front of the Xintian Dao sect's main building, and a dozen experts wearing Pill Valley's robes were walking over from in front. They swaggered as if they were law officials investigating a criminal. These experts were all Life Star experts. However, Life Star experts weren't much in front of Long Chen anymore. Behind Long Chen was Guoran, Gu Yang, and the others. They indifferently stared at these people. They had come to watch the fun. Originally, Long Chen had invited Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wanner to come, but the three of them hadn't wanted to. Conveniently, they took a vacation, deciding to go together to the Skywood Divine Palace. Chu Yao needed to go see her master and report what happened, and she also had to give her the divine life elixir to restore her youth. Long Chen thought about it and figured that the three of them should be safe. The entire eastern Xian region was weakened due to what had happened, and most importantly, Chu Yao had a terrifying protector in the form of Lu Ruyan. Even Life Star experts with divine items wouldn't be able to stop them. Long Chen felt very guilty toward them. As long as their safety was guaranteed, he would never stop them from doing what they wanted. If he didn't have so many things to do here, he would also want to go over and thank the Skywood Divine Palace for nurturing Chu Yao. Since Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wan hadn't wanted to come, Guo Ran ended up being interested. Without them present, it meant that the others could act completely unrestrained, using any vulgar or profane language that they wanted to. Long Chen, hello. I am Dash, began the leader of this group of Pill Valley experts. A hypocrite, sneered Long Chen, finishing his introduction. That expert's face twitched, but he swallowed his anger. The higher-ups had already told him that he was only to negotiate with Long Chen. The Shen Dao sect's method of greeting its guests is really unique, praised the leader. It seemed he was an expert at negotiating, and he smiled lightly instead of getting angry. First of all, you aren't our guest. What guest would be so stupid as to run to the host's house and destroy it, then come back with a smile and act like nothing had happened? And you say you aren't a hypocrite? Asked Long Chen. He leaned back in his chair and put his feet up on the table. It seems your Shen Dao sect has no intention of reconciling? Asked the leader coldly. Reconciling? Are you an idiot? Do you think words can make up for Pill Valley killing so many people of my Shen Dao sect? Sneered Long Chen. Don't act like you're the magnanimous person wanting to reconcile. Or are you telling me that you don't even know what your side has done? The images of Pill Valley attacking the Shen Dao sect have filled the streets. Everyone on the Martial Heaven continent knows of it. With such irrefutable evidence, you're not able to control the public opinion any longer. That's the only reason you've come today. Since you've come, you've admitted to your mistakes. So hurry up and get to the point. How much money are you going to compensate us with? With Zheng Wenlong's help, there was a copy of that photographic jade in practically everyone's hands. Even in a random ditch beside a street, it was possible to pick up a copy. This news had shaken the entire Martial Heaven continent. At the same time, Chu Jianying had come out and pointed her sword at Pill Valley. The righteous path was no longer under Pill Valley's control, and the sects that were dissatisfied with Pill Valley all began to loudly criticize them. They claimed to be neutral but had secretly colluded with so many different powers, even using divine items to attack an ancient sect of the righteous path. That was a grave sin. Although Pill Valley had sent out news that they had killed the main conspirators, including the Flame Divine Palace's master and vice palace masters, the damage was already done. That might have shut some people's mouths, but things weren't over. In the end, the real victim was the Shen Dao sect. The Shen Dao sect's attitude was what mattered. If Pill Valley was unable to settle this matter, then Pill Valley could give up their thoughts of continuing to do business with the righteous path. The current Huayan sect was already focusing on their alchemy business. They were providing a huge amount of medicinal pills each year. Recently, the Huayan sect's medicinal pills had grown especially abundant. There were as many available as people wanted. Their sales might even be greater than Pill Valley in that regard. In truth, that was because those medicinal pills had been the pills Long Chen had snatched from Pill Valley and given to the Huayan sect. The Huayan sect wouldn't need to worry about running out of medicinal pills for at least a few years. This was a fatal blow to Pill Valley. They had to placate the Shen Dao sect in order to placate the righteous path. Pill Valley might not be afraid of the Shen Dao sect, but they couldn't be as indifferent when it came to the Huayan sect. The Huayan sect's business domain was now reaching into their bowl. If this continued, even their bowl would be snatched. Long Chen knew all of this, which was why he didn't waste time with pleasantries. All he wanted to know was how much they were offering. Pill Valley sympathizes with the unfortunate event that occurred to the Shen Dao sect. For such degenerates to appear within Pill Valley makes us very ashamed. Don't play this game with me. Just tell me how much money you have for compensation. Long Chen waved his hand. Such childish and meaningless words were irritating. The elder's expression grew unnatural. Long Chen was even more difficult to deal with than he had expected. Long Chen didn't give the elder any chance to test his bottom line. Negotiation required testing the other side's minimum and then haggling based on both sides' limits. However, Long Chen simply repeatedly asked how much money he was offering. There was no way for him to reply to that. Starting too low would be offensive, while starting too high was not beneficial to the haggling. "Can I know if you have any suggestions?" asked the elder. He didn't want to start things off by saying his bottom line. "Me? It's simple. For the damage done to the Xiantian Dao sect, including its buildings, mountains, treasures, etc., pay us back 100 times the cost," said Long Chen indifferently. "100 times? That's impossible," roared the elder. "Is 100 times a lot? What a joke. This is already a nice offer. Who asked you to be so despicable as to sneak attack the Xiantian Dao sect?" demanded Long Chen. "I've already said it was done by some traitors. We've already dash. Then were those people not from your Pill Valley? Well, dash, exactly. Killing them was just cleaning up your sect. It was your own internal matter. However, their actions represent Pill Valley, and Pill Valley has to pay back the debts. That's simply a principle," said Long Chen disdainfully. 100 times is too much. At most, I can offer 10 times. 100 times. 15 times. 100 times. "Damn it, 20 times should be enough, right?" raged the elder. 100 times. "Ooh, you aren't negotiating at all. You have to lower your price," roared the elder. He had never encountered such a person in his life. "I just like the number 100. I'm no good at negotiating, but I do like hacking people with my saber. In any case, 100 times is 100 times, said Long Chen. Then what about when you destroyed the Eastern Xian region's pill tower? How are you planning on compensating for that damage? Raged the elder. That's simply karma. It was your side that planted the seeds for that. If you want to go find someone to blame, find those old ghosts that you killed. Perhaps those old ghosts, which should have died, are still alive? Long Chen smiled sinisterly. Although Pill Valley had publicly shown the images of those experts dying, including the Flame Divine Palace's master, Long Chen knew that he hadn't really died. That person was definitely just a scapegoat. The elder raged, "What are you talking about?" Even the Valley Master was enraged by what happened and gave all those traitors the death penalty. Haha, I won't argue with you over this. In any case, it's still 100 times. If you don't like it, then scram. Long Chen flapped his hand at them. 50 times is the most I can give you. It can't go any higher. The elder clenched his teeth. All right, have a safe trip. Long Chen directly stood and turned to leave. Hey, don't go. We're still talking. The elder became dumbfounded. Li Tianxian had left everything about the Xiantian Dao sect to Long Chen. If Long Chen left, these negotiations would fall apart. I don't like haggling. 100 times. Take it or leave it, said Long Chen. Let me discuss this with everyone. The elder hesitated and clenched his teeth, bringing his people into a corner. They argued for a long time over this compensation. It seemed the high price had caused conflict amongst them. However, in the end, they calmed down and ran back. 100 times is truly too high, but through our efforts stop wasting words. Do you accept or not? If you do, then we can start discussing the details, interrupted Long Chen. All right, I've recorded everything here with a photographic jade, and neither side can back out. Otherwise, if the photographic jades were spread, they would end up becoming a despicable petty person, laughed the elder. Now he looked to be a wily old fox. Clearly, 100 times had not surpassed his limit. In fact, it seemed it was much lower than he had expected. All his fury had been an act. You old bastard, raged Guoran. They had actually been schemed against. Long Chen held Guoran back and indifferently said, I've also activated a photographic jade. Don't worry, both our words have to count. Here, These are the details of the damage to the Xiantiandao sect. It includes our 108 main mountains, over 9,000 buildings, 30,000 pieces of equipment. Long Chen rattled off a list, while the elder recorded everything. In the end, the elder said, according to that, the damages cost around 350,000 spirit crystals. 100 times that would be 35 million spirit crystals. I will send them over within 3 days. Spirit stones were the normal currency in the cultivation world. They went from low grade, middle grade, high grade, and top grade. As for spirit crystals, they were even above top grade spirit stones. 35 million of them was an absolutely terrifying sum. However, to Pill Valley it wasn't much. The elder smiled with satisfaction. All right, excellent. Then the calculations for the damage are complete. Now let's calculate the price for the lives of the disciples and commoners from the Xiantiandao sect that you killed. Long Chen also had a smile. However, his smile looked even more sinister. The elder's face immediately turned green. What is that supposed to mean? Demanded the elder coldly. Are you acting stupid in front of me? You killed over 80 million commoners of the Xiantiandao sect. Did you forget? Asked Long Chen. Teach, lowly commoners are nothing more than ants. Are they worth compensating for? According to that, wouldn't each blade of grass and each insect of your Xiantiandao sect require compensation? Demanded the elder. Long Chen slapped the elder in the face, sending him flying outside. The other experts in his group hastily flew over to help him up, only to see that he had fainted from the slap. He only slowly woke thanks to their efforts. Lowly commoners are ants? Do you think you're a god? In front of me, you are just an ant. I can crush you with a single finger. Thus, can I also kill you whenever I want? Demanded Long Chen. Pointing at the desolate wasteland around them, he said, there were 80 million commoners here. Some of them were disciples who came from the eastern wasteland, southern sea, western desert, and northern source and failed the trial. However, they didn't want to leave, so they stayed behind. They knew there was no hope for them, but they hoped that their descendants could make their dreams a reality. Their hopes and dreams were stripped away by you along with their lives. Do you really feel no guilt? Long Chen, stop trying to act so grand. How many people do you think you've killed? If everyone came to find you for revenge and compensation, then even 10,000 of your lives wouldn't be enough. Sneered the elder. He could tell that Long Chen had no intention of reconciling. Ever since ancient times, in the battles against sects, the casualties of the commoners were never taken into consideration. Long Chen was intentionally trying to find trouble with Pill Valley. I don't even know how many heavenly geniuses I've killed, but I can guarantee this. I've never killed anyone innocent. From a small empire in the eastern wasteland, my path has been one of my enemy's bones. However, my conscience is clear. I have nothing to feel guilty about. But what about you? Pill Valley used despicable means to secretly destroy the Xiantiandao sect. If you really had guts, you would have come openly, but instead you brought a bunch of dogs to do your dirty work and blamed me. Then you had a bunch of brainless idiots follow the dogs to bite me. Killing those people doesn't affect my conscience at all. Are you even fit to be compared to me? Either pay up or scram. The Xiantiandao sect doesn't need your money. If it weren't for getting justice for the commoners you killed, I wouldn't even be willing to see you. Your Pill Valley can pay for this justice or you cannot pay for it. In either case, I don't care, said Long Chen. Pill Valley's experts clenched their teeth. The elder took a deep breath and said, what do you want? Since those traitors came from Pill Valley won't shirk responsibility. Long Chen was a bit surprised. Why had his tone changed so suddenly? However, he quickly noticed a bracelet on the elder's arm sparkling. Most likely, someone had sent him a message. His guess was that Pill Valley's higher-ups were using the bracelet to see what was happening here and to communicate with the elder. With the elder's bargaining style, he definitely wouldn't say such binding words. This was just an act, a high attitude for others to see. It was to show the world how magnanimous Pill Valley was. Only like this could they win back Pill Valley's lost prestige. Long Chen would bet money that the one who had sent this order down was Yu Xiaoyan. How refreshing. Then I won't try to cheat you. We'll calculate them according to the normal standards for the life of cultivators. I won't even count them as life star experts. For an ordinary soul transformation expert, the cost is at least 100 top-grade spirit stones. At 100 times, it would be 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. 10,000 top-grade spirit stone is 1 spirit crystal, so for over 80 million commoners, it's 80 million spirit crystals. I'll even get rid of the remainder for you, said Long Chen. What absolute nonsense. Those commoners were basically all at the Xiantian realm and below. Some of them hadn't even reached bone forging. How can you value them the same as soul transformation experts? Raged the elder. Long Chen was clearly trying to cheat them. Those commoners hadn't been able to become true members of the sect precisely because their talent was lacking. Now, Long Chen wanted to value them as soul transformation experts? That was definitely bullying. Yu Xiaoyun's goal this time was to keep the price within 35 million spirit crystals, with an absolute limit of 50 million. Otherwise, even Pill Valley would be hurt by the price. After all, it wasn't too long ago that Master Long San had caused chaos in Pill Valley, damaging them gravely. They had still yet to recover. That was why the elder had been delighted when Long Chen had agreed to a price of 35 million at first. That would have perfectly accomplished his mission. Now though he was enraged. 80 million commoners valued at 80 million spirit crystals. Then when added to the previous 35 million, it was 115 million spirit crystals. That was far beyond the target that the Valley Master had asked of him. In fact, it was over double. Tisich, what era do you think this is? The great era is about to descend. Heavenly geniuses are sprouting like bamboo after the spring rain. How do you know that they wouldn't break through? How do you know they wouldn't grow past the soul transformation realm, the life star realm, or even the nether passage realm? Not counting them as life star experts was already being too kind. You don't know how to appreciate kindness, said Long Chen. Kindness? Ha, what a joke. The elder laughed furiously. How many of those elders had already been about to reach the end of their longevity? How many of them were just waiting for death? Don't you think it's funny to say that they could still break through? Fine, then we can go according to what you just said. I admit the majority of those 80 million commoners were old. I'll exclude those 60 million people. That way, the remaining ones are all in their youth and could still break through, said Long Chen. To immediately remove 60 million was good for Pill Valley. That way, they would only have to compensate them with an additional 20 million, and adding the previous portion, it was 55 million. That was just barely acceptable. That's fair, said the elder. He didn't say anything explicitly about it. Long Chen easily saw through that, and he continued, all right, then let's continue calculating. Of those 20 million young disciples, there were men and women. How many children would they have given birth to in just 1 year? I'll say around 5 million. In 10 years, that would be 50 million. As for after 30 years, I won't bother you with that. So how many children would be born within 30 years? If I kept calculating each and every generation that was born, that would be a bit too much, so just 30 years is definitely fair. So, we're counting it as 20 million people whose descendants were cut off because of you. Just compensating 30 years is definitely not cheating you, said Long Chen lightly. Long Chen's indifferent words made Li Tianxian and the old Xian master shake their heads. They were watching his negotiations from within the Xiantian tower. The old Xian master sighed. This little fellow Long Chen really is shameless. How could things be calculated like that? Li Tianxian shook his head. Master, you don't know this, but Long Chen grew up in a poor environment. He feels close to those commoners, and he dislikes those arrogant, lofty existences. He acts according to his own viewpoint and doesn't care about some big picture. His actions are obstinate and self-opinionated, and yet, those words also aren't too suitable for him because his actions are always for justice, not selfishness. The old Xian master nodded. Long Chen's style of doing things was related to his experiences. The two of them simply continued watching. Pill Valley's elder was so infuriated that he was about to explode. In all his years he had encountered many tough negotiators, but he had never encountered someone as unreasonable as Long Chen. This was clearly fallacious reasoning. It was as ridiculous as a chicken birthing an egg which birthed a chicken which birthed an egg which birthed a chicken. If this wasn't extortion, then what was? The elder didn't say anything to Long Chen. Long Chen's attitude was clear. He was a completely unreasonable person, and nothing the elder said would be useful against him. After half an incense stick's worth of silence, he finally said, "Since this was done by Pill Valley's traders, Pill Valley will pay the debt. We will pay for the commoners according to how you specified." Within the Xiantian Tower, the old Xian master was startled. They really had accepted. However, Li Tianxian wasn't surprised. Pill Valley had no choice but to suffer this time. After all, the entire continent was watching them. Even if they were cheated, they had to endure it. At the very least, enduring meant that they could maintain Pill Valley's dignity and reputation. This was a pain that they had to go through, otherwise, it would be even worse when their reputation hit rock bottom. Alright, then once this compensation arrives, this matter between Pill Valley and the Xiantian Dao sect will be over, said Long Chen. Pill Valley will send you the money within 3 days. After saying that, the elder left with his people without ever looking back. Once they left, Guoran asked, "Boss, is our conflict with Pill Valley resolved now?" "Tish resolved my ass. Remember, lives cannot be bought with money. The only reason why I bothered speaking with them was to first get some interest on their debt to us. We'll hack them down later. Didn't I say that the Xiantian Dao sect's matter ends here? However, that doesn't represent that my personal enmity ends here. We'll still kill who we should kill in the future, understood?" asked Long Chen. "Boss, you really are evil," praised Guoran. Long Chen shook his head. "This isn't evil. Pill Valley is also thinking like this. They only lowered their heads this time to win their reputation back, and I refuse to believe that they don't understand what I said. They're already scheming on how to bring us down. Our enmity with Pill Valley has been completely set in stone. If Pill Valley has a chance, they won't hesitate to destroy the Xiantian Dao sect. And if I have a chance, I definitely won't let them off easy. Don't get taken in by appearances. The Xiantian Dao sect looks like it's rising, but in terms of foundation, it cannot compare to Pill Valley. It might look like we got a large sum from Pill Valley, but to their sales of medicinal pills over tens of thousands of years, it's nothing. Medicinal pills are the most profitable business. They've held monopolies for so many years. No one knows how much wealth they've accumulated. Of course, Pill Valley won't just let that money rot away. They definitely have the ability to transform that wealth into terrifying power. The most powerful existence in this world is money. Why is it that Pill Valley can act so tyrannical to everyone except the Huayun sect? Because the Huayun sect has money. The Xiantian Dao sect doesn't have a matching wealth for its sudden rise. There are many newcomers that the sect has to raise now, and that's all money. Furthermore, the sect must be rebuilt. With the Great Era coming, it must be rebuilt as fast as possible. That all requires an ocean's worth of resources. So don't get confused by our victory now. As soon as someone loses their sense of crisis, the real crisis comes. Everyone's hearts shook. After the battle in the Grand Han, Long Chen's name had shaken the very heavens, and the Dragonblood Legion's name had rocked the world. They truly had felt very satisfied with that unrivaled state. Only now did they realize that it was too early to be happy. Things were far from as simple as they seemed. "Everyone, go into seclusion. Guoran, you stay behind." Once everyone had left, Guoran laughed mischievously. "Boss, are you giving this little brother some special treatment?" This little fellow was craftier than a monkey. Long Chen was speechless as Guoran had guessed right. "Yes. This time, I gained some new heavenly Dao fruits. However, it's a bit different from what I imagined." Long Chen brought Guoran somewhere private and took out a heavenly Dao fruit. This heavenly Dao fruit was different from before. Before, a heavenly Dao fruit had 1 to 9 marks depending on the rank of the celestial. However, this one had no marks. It was translucent, and the inside was a mass of primal chaos. This time, he had gained 16 of these heavenly Tao fruits. Amongst them included Hu Xiaolin and Jin Mingwei's, whose manifestations had reached a state of initial awakening. However, Long Chen found that all of them were the same. The energy fluctuations were also identical. There was no way to ascertain which ones came from Hu Xiaolin or Jin Mingwei. Long Chen guessed that the heavenly Tao tree only absorbed their heavenly Tao energy, but not their manifestation. Their actual manifestation returned to the heavens. Eat one as a test. Long Chen handed a heavenly Tao fruit over. Boss, you really treat me well. Guoran was grateful. He knew that in the Dragonblood Legion, he was the only one to obtain this heavenly Tao fruit. Eat it. Guoran devoured it in 3 gulps. As the heavenly Tao fruit entered his stomach, Guoran's expression changed. He suddenly found that his heavenly Tao energy was evaporating out of his control. It was actually dissipating. Boss, cried Guoran. Long Chen's expression was also serious. As expected, the heavenly Tao energy of Empyreans was marked by the heavenly Taos. Unless someone was approved by the heavenly Taos, there was no way to absorb it. Not only could Guoran not absorb it, but his rank 9 celestial status was also being stripped away. It was like someone was caught cheating during a test. Not only were their cheating tools taken away, but even their current accomplishments were eliminated. Summon your armor and see if you can lock it in, said Long Chen. Guoran hastily summoned his armor, covering his entire body. Countless runes lit up. Boss, it's no good, cried Guoran. He was unable to lock in his dissipating energy. Like using a bamboo basket to hold water, there was no way to make it work by just trying harder. Long Chen placed a hand on his back. Don't move. Let me see if I can help you control it. Long Chen sent his spiritual yuan throughout Guoran's body, forming a barrier to lock the energy in. However, no matter how he tried to stop it, he was unable to stop the heavenly Tao energy from escaping. A person had too many acupuncture points. If Long Chen used his full power, he could forcibly suppress that energy. He felt like there was an 80% chance of success in suppressing it. However, that would cause Guoran's body to explode instantly. Even Gu Yang would be unable to bear that impact. Long Chen pulled back his hand, and Guoran felt like he was a deflating balloon. All his heavenly Tao energy escaped. Boss, what happened? Asked Guoran. It's fine. It's just that your heavenly Tao energy disappeared and you're no longer a celestial, said Long Chen. How is that fine? Guoran jumped. If he didn't have heavenly Tao energy, he would basically be crippled. Don't worry, the reason I chose you to test is because you have your armor. I wanted to see if that could lock it in. Since it can't, it means this wouldn't work for anyone else either. This experiment is a failure, said Long Chen helplessly. What the fuck? So you were just using me as a guinea pig? Why was I so grateful? Guoran had a desire to cry tearless tears. Don't worry. Someone had to test it. Since directly consuming it is no good, I'll come up with some medicinal formulas to refine the heavenly Tao fruit into heavenly Tao pills. Go and distribute these rank 9 heavenly Tao fruits. The entire Dragonblood Legion will be full of rank 9 celestials. Long Chen handed a spatial ring to Guoran. The spatial ring was packed with just enough rank 9 heavenly Tao fruits to transform each rank 7 and rank 8 celestial in the Dragonblood Legion into a rank 9 celestial. Their gains during the last battle were truly great. The Dragonblood Legion's power was about to rise once more. The only thing that depressed Long Chen was that the experiment had failed, resulting in him wasting a possible Empyrean appearing in the Dragonblood Legion. However, fortunately he had used Guoran as an experiment first. Otherwise, if he had distributed them at the start, they would all be wasted. Long Chen first ran over to Li Tianxian to see the situation with the formation. The cost of the formation Xia Chen had sent was absolutely terrifying. If Pill Valley pays in full, then adding on our current wealth, we can finish about 80% of the formation. As for the remaining 20%, we can think of something in the future. In any case, building such a huge formation will require a long time, said Li Tianxian. How long would it take to reconstruct the Xiantian Dao sect? Asked Long Chen. About 100 years, said Li Tianxian. 100 years? That's way too long. Long Chen almost jumped. 100 years is already very fast. You should know that when the Xiantiandao sect was first built, it took 800 years. By the time the formations and buildings were fully built, it had been 1,000 years. If you want to complete it faster, it'll take even more manpower and resources. We don't have the money, said Li Tianxian. It was just as Long Chen said. The Xiantiandao sect didn't have enough money as a foundation. The main reason was due to the long period of decline. Even though they had revived, their pockets were still empty, and it took a long time to accumulate wealth. Wealth was even more important to a sect's foundation than geniuses. Even so, it's too long. We can't wait that long. Long Chen shook his head. I understand. With the great era coming, heavenly geniuses are sprouting up, and countless hibernating sects are awakening. This is an era where countless flowers bloom and strive to outshine the others. However, it's also the most dangerous era. The slightest carelessness will cause one to be washed out of the era. Unfortunately, we can only do it this way. Just because you want to build it faster doesn't mean that we can, said Li Tianxian helplessly. I understand why we can't, and you understand why we must. But it's still no good. This formation relates to the Xiantiandao sect's life and death. It has to be constructed in as short of a time as possible, said Long Chen decisively. Although he had the support of the Wine God Palace and the Xiantiandao sect, and even Chu Jianying had warned others that she would protect Long Chen, he could not entrust the lives of his brothers and himself in the hands of others. That wouldn't give any sense of safety. The formation that Xia Chen had sent over had been studied by Li Tianxian. It was a formation that had vanished from the earth, and it was extremely powerful. If they could construct this formation, then the Xiantiandao sect would have established a confident foothold even within the Great Era. That was why this formation was a must for Long Chen. It had to be built as fast as possible. 100 years was too long. Who knew what would happen in 100 years? What if someone attacked in the middle of the construction and ruined everything? Then how long do you want? Asked Li Tianxian. 1 to 2 years, said Long Chen. Li Tianxian and the old Xian master sucked in a cold gasp of air. Li Tianxian said, ignoring whether or not that's physically possible, even if it is, the cost of building it that quickly will be 10 times greater than the original estimation, said Li Tianxian. Constructing the Xiantiandao sect wasn't just building houses. The formation had many runes that needed to be nourished for a long time. To have them mature in a short time would require more resources, more wealth. The cost was staggering. That's fine. Xian Master, you can get started with planning and building the foundation. I'll think of something for the rest. Long Chen left the Xiantian Tower under the shocked gazes of Li Tianxian and the old Xian Master. He told the Dragonblood warriors to focus on their cultivation, and he left the Xiantiandao sect alone, going directly to the heaven-splitting battle sect. He didn't dare to tarry. With the old man's temper, who knew whether or not he would directly charge the Nether Passage realm in his fury? Without fully preparing, his odds of failure were too high. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.